Do you not understand this is cultural? Like, how is nobody in this documentary mentioning cultural differences? We are not living in the same cultures. If you want a person because they're a virgin and you want to take their virginity, you're a freak, bro. Join a BDSM club and pretend you're all virgins. You're a freak. But if you want a person who's a virgin because you're a virgin and you both believe in a god, that's culture. Wanting a virgin because they're a virgin is sick, bro. You're sick in the head, bro. Go to therapy.
So I'm here in the outback of New South Wales to meet with Holly and Carmen, who are sex workers that own a farm here and have been doing their work for 20 some odd years all over the world. I feel they'll have extremely unique perspectives on relationships and love, being the people someone goes to when they feel lonely, when they feel something's missing and they just need.
Very impressive of Lauren to interview some workers. I really appreciate this. This is really good so far.
Damien.
Yes, hi.
Are you married?
No, but I pretend to be married. It actually, my strategy is that if I'm taken, they'll come to me. I know, it's a terrible strategy. It appears to work because people are more interested in someone that's unavailable. That's in my experience.
There is a group of people who live in a particular bubble in which they are more likely to hit on somebody who's married because it's proof that they're wanted than somebody who isn't. I heard from somebody that's like a cheater or like lenient on cheating. They told me that the best people to hit on are married people because at least you know they're good at being partners. And I was like, and that was like the insight into the cheating bubble. And I do think there is a type of cheater or type of people that are lenient on cheating for this reason, because in their brain, this is acceptable activity to them. And then they feel like they got picked because they feel like they're the prize. And the person who's married feels like they're being picked. And the person who is like, oh, you left your wife for me? Okay, this is like super toxic to me and like validation seeking, but I think he's onto something for a very select group of people. I don't want to say this is the majority of people. Oh, I'm excited. What is love?
That's a big one.
That's a good question. Love, I actually I heard someone else say a definition of love is when you serve the other person.
Well, love means a lot of things for me. Maybe the main thing it means security.
Love is a connection between two human beings who can be their full selves and support each other to be the best versions of themselves in union.
Actually, I do know this answer. Love means to me the feeling of coming back home to something where you just feel that it's so right and it feels like home.
Empty love.
When you think of love and romance, we have many different cultural icons that come to mind. Passionate kisses in the rain, like from The Notebook, sexual lust and desire, mysterious and fleeting connections. But today, millennials partake in a version of love and relationships far different from that of their forefathers, one mired in freedom, novelty, and carnal desire. Great cultural shifts like the decline of religion, the sexual revolution, the rise of feminism and liberalism have thrown romance into a new, confusing age. A large portion of our population focus on obvious positives of these changes, such as the liberalization of divorce laws that have led to huge reductions in the rate of domestic abuse. It's undeniable that some change needed to occur. However, there's a growing sentiment that we may have thrown the baby out with the bathwater. And in the wake of the sexual revolution and liberalization, the dream of the white picket fenced family is slowly fading away to an impossibility only preserved in Norman Rockwell paintings. The lack of stringent rules keeping people together has opened a different Pandora's box of its own. A brave new world in which many no longer know what the vision of their future romantically and family-wise holds, and younger generations are utterly addicted to trying to solve this crisis. If you pull up any tweet, podcast clip, or YouTube video essay from a guy or gal who's telling you how to live your life these days, all you'll get is thousands of different pieces of completely contradictory advice.
Here are things you should never say to a woman ever.
Ladies, pay attention.
So this is basically the way that men
math.
decide how much they value you.
In many cases, these men and women preaching their wares to the world.
Can I say something? Because like home math just came up. I want to say this. I watched a panel the other day on AI girlfriends from WIC. And something that I never hear mentioned, and I mentioned this to my partner. I was like, why is no one talking about love? He goes, what do you mean? I was like, no one's talking about love or generational love, like seeing your parents in love. None of these people talk about their parents. None of these people are talking about love. And he goes, why would they talk about love when they're talking about politics? I was like, well, if they want to save humanity, if you want people to breed more, if you want to stop blaming men or women for the decline in birth rates, then you have to understand why people aren't falling in love. And then we talked about how like 60% of babies are happening not planned, right? We talked about how these people are coming from divorced homes. They don't know what love is. We're talking about so many different things, but no one ever talks about love. Even Lauren Southern is divorced and she was in an abusive marriage, according to her. You know, so many people are divorced and now she's a single mom. And so I'm looking at her and I'm wondering, like, was this your person? And again, no judgment, of course. Like, I'm not blaming Lauren for her position. I'm saying that the love of your life doesn't abuse you. So why did we settle for these marriages? And these marriages, that's why our moms got divorced, because they settled in marriages that were abusive because the culture was pushing them in a direction. And now that the culture isn't suffocating us to get married, a lot of women aren't choosing to be married or / choosing to settle. And I know a lot of people will settle. I think lots of people do settle. And I think that that can be fine. But often we settle for toxicity. You know, we settle for the wrong relationship. And so I'm kind of concerned about that, right? So I think as we listen to this, I want to keep that in mind for myself and for you guys is no one's talking about successful relationships. I'm lucky my parents have been married and together for so long, right? I'm lucky that I have a lived experience of watching two people love each other and stay married and want to be with each other and love each other and our best friends every day. But that's the one thing I never see happen in these discussions. Why aren't we talking about love? Why are we talking about hypergamy? Why are we talking about how much he makes and how much she doesn't make? Why are we still talking about that? Why aren't we talking about love or like companionship or morals or values?
End up focusing on the most hardcore examples of detestable behavior perpetuated by the opposite sex that doesn't really translate to reality.
Women are more manipulative than men.
The average Zoomer is being drip-fed a constant warped reality that's leading to greater intersex resentment and a hell of a lot less love.
Girls, how much money should a guy make per year?
Like $1 million?
Would you ever marry a guy who makes less money than you?
How much less?
However, before we can discuss the crisis caused by the sexual revolution, first we must understand why it came.
Damn, you guys are saying maybe people don't believe in love because they've never seen it, or Maiden said lots of people don't believe in love. Well, maybe that's the problem. Maybe this loneliness epidemic isn't women's problem, or even men's. Maybe it's love. And I don't mean casual, superficial love. I mean deep, rooted love. Symbiotic love too. It can't be one way. So many people are in one-way relationships. Girls, you know how many people I know who dedicate their lives to people who don't dedicate them back? So it has to be a symbiotic love.
The sexual revolution has changed for the better most people's sexual lives. I mean, when I started off as a sex therapist back in the 70s, people were so embarrassed to talk about sex. They often had aspects of sex that had caused them enormous anxiety all their lives, and they'd never been able to tell anybody, whether it was the shape of their penis or whether it was some sort of sexual desire or some sort of, whatever it was. They had no one to tell.
All penises are good penises, I've been with my handful and all the different shapes and sizes never bothered me. But do you know that this might be my neurodivergence. You guys have heard me say this before. When I read things, I really internalize it. So when I was reading that men were embarrassed by how their genitals looked, when women were expressing their embarrassment over their genitalia, I made a concerted effort to recognize that genitals are different on everybody, and there's no reason someone should feel embarrassed about how their genitals look. And so as a lover myself, I always made sure to experience the human body for what it was instead of whatever pornographic version of it had been displayed to me. Because yeah, longer labia, shorter labia, circumcised, uncircumcised. I learned that loving the person meant experiencing their body instead of needing to change it, experiencing the person and who they are. And so I learned this from watching Sex and the City as well, where there's this whole episode about circumcised, uncircumcised. And I take the Samantha approach. It's all good to me. Different flavors, still ice cream, love it. But this idea of people being grossed out by how genitalia looks, I think says so much more about them than about the people with the bodies. If love is dictated on what your boobs look like you're not talking about love, bro. You're not talking about love, symbiotic love, unconditional love. You're not talking about real love. You're talking about a version of love that is valid, but most likely lust or attraction. And I think that's really important.
And it was a whole area of their lives that was full of shame and embarrassment. And that was the great privilege of my life as a young woman, to be the person that everybody told about their deepest fears, their yearnings and what they didn't know, and to teach people about their bodies and to give them answers. And I mean, I remember I was sitting in my office one day and I got a call from a nurse at one of our big hospitals. She said, I've got a ward full of young men who've had spinal injuries and they're all asking me, will they ever get an erection again? And what do I tell them? None of the doctors will talk to them. And I went to America and found out who was doing the first work on spinal injuries and erections, finding the people who are beginning to get the answers to what was, will that man ever get an erection again?
Love science. Let's move us forward to intimacy. What is it? Kids, money, sex, 3 top reasons for divorce. Let's go. Abby says, do you think love comes from attraction first? Okay, so love is all different things. There are so many different kinds of love. So love isn't one thing. So you have to decide for you as a person what you need. But if your partner is demisexual, asexual, aromantic, if your partner is allo, if your partner is experiencing attraction in a completely different way, they're not going to care so much about your body, or maybe they care totally about your body, or maybe it depends on the individuals we're talking about. I think this is the most nuanced conversation. So there's no way to have it in the black and white. We have to be very specific about what we're talking about. If your goal is to find the high compatibility partners, the people who are in high compatibility with you, then you cannot settle even in a loving marriage. You can settle into a loving marriage, but that doesn't mean that you're going to have that thing. That means you will feel completely fulfilled in the marriage. If you want a high compatibility partner where you feel very fulfilled in the relationship, you're best friends, everything's vibing, this is without a doubt the best person you've ever met because you are so connected because of that high compatibility, then you're going to have to accept that it might not happen in this lifetime. If your biggest concern is making sure you're married no matter what, then you want to attain or aim for a love marriage that is about settling with a compatible partner that is like not the soulmate status, but is good enough. And you're both on the same page about that. Or what most people do is settle into toxic relationships in which is on again, off again, cheating and divorce and lots of just, I'm sick of my husband and oh, my wife, I have to go home to her again. And and then you get this divorce rate and everyone's like, why is the divorce rate happening? Well, because you're settling for toxic relationships in which even when 2 people get together, it becomes toxic because you literally don't like each other. Do you even like your partner? And then what does it mean to stay in love? And what does it mean to stay with that person? Like I'm going to be with my husband through health and sickness and in health, right? But for a lot of people, they dump their partners the moment they have a health crisis. That's just statistics. And I think that's why most people are settling, because you're not even willing to fight the world for your partner in that capacity. And it's assuming you're in a healthy relationship, right? You got to go for physical attraction or aura attraction, because it's not always physical. Then you go for compatibility. Then it's about values. Then it's about like, do you love this person, this consciousness? Not just like what they give you. Oh, how much does your husband make? Who cares? What does it matter how much my husband makes? It only matters if it matters. Oh, is your husband handsome? I don't know. Maybe. To me, to you, to them. Look, you have to decide why this even matters in the first place. Oh, I need sex to matter. To what extent? If your partner's in a coma, like, what does that mean? Are you have to decide. These are your values. Why are you getting married? But I don't think people know that about themselves. I think they're so traumatized that they're seeking relationships to fulfill some hole in their life that's been missing, and they forget, like, it's never about your partner. It's about you.
I mean, there was issue after issue like that where the whole discussion around sexuality had been totally taboo, and the sexual revolution opened those doors.
Let's go.
And improved the lives of millions of people across the world.
Problems around sex have always existed, but they haven't always been discussed, whether it be sexual deprivation, erectile dysfunction, STDs, body insecurity, miscarriages, or infertility. The world needed to open up to having these conversations publicly instead of making them a taboo.
True.
The sexual revolution provided a space to do that by breaking away barriers and customs which kept us silent about our sex lives. However, as with any cultural revolution, there are always trade-offs. And while many barriers needed to be broken, others torn down may have proved necessary guardrails for healthy human interaction.
It's very difficult to pull apart what is the damage caused by the sexual revolution from the other societal changes that were, to do with our attitudes towards marriage, to do with so much has changed in our society. And I think teasing out how much of that is to do with our attitudes to sex is very difficult. It's just too complex an equation.
I've heard the term sexual revolution ever since I was a first-year psychology student. And actually, there's not been one sexual revolution. There have been several, right? In one hand, you could say that there's been a sexual revolution with the advent of the birth control pill. But women had sexual revolution. Nowadays, you can say there's been a sexual revolution with people that are openly gay or have openly other sexual preferences. So there's been a widening of perspective and an inclusive mindset in society at large. So of what's been acceptable as far as sexual preferences or expressions of those. Has that been good? Yes. I think with every cultural shift, there are pros and there are also cons. If people not just express sexuality, but also express a willingness to convey responsibility, a sense of perspective, and realism, in other words, you're not just expressing fantasy or a facade, but you're also trying to showcase what goes beyond just sex, what goes just beyond sexual expression. Because again, sex doesn't happen.
Sorry, it says having casual sex, here's what to do if you start catching feelings. So I will say that with all my sexual partners that I had, I always was friends with them and I always liked them as people. I didn't want to date them, but I liked them as people for the most part. That's why I was willing to have sex with them, right? And I think that that's probably why I never had a one-night stand or why I was never casual. And every person I've been with has gotten tested beforehand, which means I knew them long enough to have them go get tested and bring back paperwork. So I'm really lucky in that way. I think that that's also missing in the conversation. I personally don't do one-night stands because I just don't feel connected to those people, but
in a vacuum. Even if people think it does, it doesn't.
Here's 5 signs you're friends with benefits is catching feelings. I will say that's normal. And I've had that happen with a girl where she was like, we should date. We're having a great sex. And I was like, nope, we're not compatible and you know it. You have to be able to put your foot down. And then I've made mistakes where I did date my fuck buddies and they ended horribly because I didn't put my foot down. Sometimes you catch feelings, but also you should have some sort of feeling towards the people you're sleeping with, hopefully positive, just maybe not compatible long-term feelings. But people trick themselves. You cope. Hey, we're having great sex. It must mean we're great partners. Nope, I've had great sex with people that were horrible partners. Period.
Sex is always connected to psychological processes, neurological processes that lead to emotion and a deeper sense of attachment. So people are kidding themselves if they're only thinking sexual revolution is about accepting one's sexual expression and preferences. It should always lead to a conversation about relationships.
Monet says, I'm such a physical person that someone's looks are absolutely a deal breaker for me. Intellectual connection and physical connection matter on the same level for me. I think I'm attracted to so many different kinds of people that I'm pretty lucky. Like, I am literally attracted to so many different kinds of physical bodies that I think it does matter for me as well, but it doesn't matter for me as much as somebody else because I have so many more options. Like, I'm just into so many different kinds of bodies. The few bodies that I'm not into are so few because we all have our limitations of what we're into. Question is, do you have a lot of options or few options, you know?
Goes into relationships, what defines healthy relationships, and most importantly, what defines healthy relationships over time. Because what starts a relationship, what keeps it exciting, is not what keeps it together over the long term.
Let's go.
So what actually defines a healthy relationship?
Ooh.
Outside of rejecting an abusive one, it seems we aren't really broaching this question anymore, at least not in a meaningful way.
I agree. Okay, I'm excited. Ooh, I'm excited.
The major problems, I think, exist with online
Neuroscience and behavioral science researcher.
relationship advice today, and this can be boiled down maybe simply, is you have a lot of people that just make things up because it feels right to them.
Stop dating only one girl at a time.
We don't like to have fun and hang out with girls. We like to sleep with girls.
They don't really look at what we know empirically about what makes relationships function well, what makes them function poorly, and you have a lot of ideology that filters into this.
Men care about looks and personality, and women care less about looks and more about, I don't know how to draw the universe, so I drew a galaxy.
Folk psychology or pop psychology, things people popularly believe that sometimes are right, but very often are wrong as well. You have a lot of trends that are kind of ideological that feel.
I don't want to stereotype anyone, but I feel like this guy is either into the lifestyle, into D&D, or does woodworking.
Filter into what I like to call like TikTok therapy, right? Kind of beliefs that people have about how human psychology should be, or even how they think a therapist should act in this context, but really is very often divorced from the way that actual trained psychologists perceive it. Specifically, what we see within manosphere, red pill subcultures is kind of this appropriation of evolutionary psychology as well, almost turning it into like a caricature. And so people take what are essentially average differences or trends between groups and they apply it to everyone. For example, the idea in the manosphere of all women are like that, right? They call it AWOLT.
Every single woman, for example, is capable of cucking a man, cheating, or lying or being deceptive.
Do I believe that not all women are like that? No, I don't.
And you know, this is something that is basically the opposite of what you would learn studying evolutionary psychology or personality psychology, where there are individual differences and, you know, not all men are the same. Not all women are the same. You can use sociosexuality as an example that, you know, some people are very high in this, very promiscuous. Many people are not at the same time.
As a result of growing advice on the internet sphere that presents itself as intellectual and even data-driven, but is often divorced from reality, many have observed a growing gender war occurring.
We see, you know, evidently in modern society that there's kind of a gender war, a battle of the sexes, right? And, you know, the term battle of the sexes goes back decades. There's always been some extent of hostility from men towards women, and often this is related kind of to frustrated mating. Within the research, that's kind of what's seen, is that misogynistic attitudes grow when men feel that they are excluded from mating, essentially, when they're excluded from the dating pool. And we can see this, for example, in the rise of the incel community. There's been a couple of interesting studies that tracked users from earlier
I hate these narratives that I see all the time. Like, I was watching, like I said, Wix panel on AI girlfriends, and everyone's like, women don't want to date average men anymore. Women want to date hypergamously, and they want to date men who make more money than them. And then when I date a guy who I love, who makes less money than me, everyone's like, I can't believe you're dating a guy who makes less money than you. And I was like, you can't win. You can't win. Someone's always going to be unhappy with your choices. That's why fuck them. It's not your business. Fall in love, bros, and fall in love with a good person and be a good person to attract a good person and then base it on compatibility for real, okay? Love the consciousness that is them in such a way that it's symbiotic. You both agree. You're on the same page.
Communities like Pickup Artist, right? Where they try to teach people how to form relationships. And a lot of people have left those communities. They've actually moved into the incel communities. So these have grown. So that's an idea that you know, or an indication that there is kind of this growing resentment. I think there's a very strong saliency of anecdotes online through like TikTok, Instagram Reels, that sort of a thing. So people see a lot of negative behavior online that's not representative, and then that further fuels their perception. A head full of anecdotes, kind of making it seem like everyone is terrible in the opposite sex. And I guess the only thing to consider about that, as far as this bitterness, is it justified? People will say yes, no, I'm going to tell you no.
You know why? Because y'all are paying too much attention to gender. Does gender even exist? God, if it really exists this much in your life, then make it work. All the real traditional religious people I know, for the most part, are either unmarried because they won't settle, which is good, or they are married to the right people and their gender desires in their relationship work out because they agree because they're part of the same culture. It's like y'all forget, do you belong to a culture or not? And people don't. Everyone keeps saying God is missing from our lives. Culture. You have no culture. You have no behavior expectation. You have no community. You have no culture. You have nothing. You don't have a culture of family. You don't have a culture of community. You don't have a culture of unity. You don't have culture. And if God is the way you get culture, find a God. And if God isn't the way you find culture, then make sure you know that you are culturalists. It is you. You do not have a culture. Okay? Figure out who you want to be around. Who do you want to be friends with? Who do you want your community to be? What is your life going to look like? You have no culture. So of course you have nothing. People usually have a dream of cohabitating with people to have community or culture, to have something to look forward to. My husband and I are always discussing what holidays do we want to celebrate. We just celebrated Mother's Day with his mother. Do we want to celebrate birthdays? How do we want to celebrate things? How do we want to spend Christmas or, Halloween? You have to decide what culture do you want. Like, we want Christmas trees. We want to do Christmas. We want to talk about, okay, this is what we want to do. You get to pick your culture, but make sure you have one, because no wonder you feel lost. You have no tradition. Tradition. If you know what I'm saying. Ari says culture is so hard to find. No, it is only hard to find if you are an empty vessel. You are culture. You are the culture. What is your culture? You get to decide. Culture is a construct. Make the culture. Be the culture. Join the culture. Be the culture. I made a culture. I chose a bubble. I made a bubble. I picked from the things that I liked growing up. He picked from the things he liked growing up. And we created a community. And then you can add more people to the community or not. But the idea is that community isn't this thing that's unattainable. It's a thing that's made. You make it. Abby says, do you think the lack of culture is a first world problem? I think the lack of culture is the result of this particular community that is suffering. It is not a universal problem of privileged communities. Plenty of privileged communities have plenty of culture. The cultures that are suffering are the ones without it because they have become, again, it stems from your family. If you're not eating dinner with your kids every night, if you're not spending time in making traditions, then what traditions are your kids going to carry on? If you're not doing something that's habitual, if you're not creating the culture in your own homes, what tradition is your kid supposed to carry on? Culture is made by doing. The reason I show you how to make Assyrian food is because I know it will die with me. It will die with everybody in my family. There's only 2 siblings in my mom's 10 children home who make Middle Eastern food. My family already chose not to teach us the language. If I do not keep making the food, who will keep the tradition alive? Tradition is kept alive by those who do. It is created through a construct for those who do. Habitually, you must make it a tradition. And then if your parents didn't form the tradition, form the tradition. This is what we do every week. This is what we do every year. This is our tradition. Tradition doesn't have to look like misogyny. It doesn't have to look like the man works and the woman doesn't, but it has to be consistent.
The thing is for sure, if you're bitter toward the opposite sex, if you hate the entire opposite sex, it will destroy your relationships. You will have a really hard time forming new relationships, romantic relationships, any relationship you're in. It's going to be really destructive for you and for the other person. You can't hate the whole opposite sex and have a loving relationship at the same time.
True. Trauma.
This divide has created an ever-growing sense of loneliness and sexlessness amongst younger generations, a loneliness, however, that has been felt since the dawn of time in those lacking touch or romance. And many turn to other methods beyond tradition.
Hold up. Ari says this may be a class issue then. Working class culture is working as hard as possible, commodifying your hobbies and trying to find a partner who above all meets your financial situation. Or no, can above all improve your financial situation. Working class people have some of the most traditional traditions. That is a specific bubble. The class issue is not the same. Poor people have some of the best traditions. So like, I don't want this to be like, oh, only rich people have culture. I hope that's not what we're saying. Everybody has culture. But poor people have some of the best traditions. They have some of the best ways of communicating that tradition. But working class bubbles, some of them have that. Like, all poor people aren't a monolith, right? Rich people aren't a monolith. So some poor bubbles aren't going to have the culture and some people aren't. But tradition is universal. It's universal through classes. It just looks different.
Sex work is the oldest profession in the world.
I am a top OnlyFans creator. It's 50% off right now for the next week if you want to join for my birthday month to celebrate. I make $1 million a month, and I really would like you to contribute more to that. So if you want to see one of the top performers on OF, guys, sign up today. Thank you.
World, with Sumerian records going back to 2400 BCE of prostitutes' existence. The numbers of men who pay for sex vary from 16% in the United States to 40% in Spain, and studies have shown their reasoning varies greatly as well. Large portions of men have pure sexual urges, while other reasons may surprise you, like desperation for some sort of emotional intimacy and social connectedness.
I was changing careers and I answered an ad for a reception position. It didn't say what the business was. I was a little bit anti-sex work before I joined the industry. And then I went to this job interview and it turned out I was in a massage parlor, like a nude rub and tug, and I was absolutely in love with it. They'd spent like $2 million in renovations. It was the most beautiful building I'd ever been in my entire life. And that's where I began. I started as a receptionist.
So I'm here in the outback of New South Wales to meet with Holly and Carmen, who are sex workers that own a farm here and have been doing their work for 20 some odd years all over the world. I feel they'll have extremely unique perspectives on relationships and love, being the people someone goes to when they feel lonely, when they feel something's missing and they just need.
Very impressive of Lauren to interview some sex workers. I really appreciate this. This is really good so far.
Need human touch and affection.
And these cold nights will bring
the importance of touch. We all need it as human beings, don't we? We all need company, we all need our own kind, we all need conversation, we need communication, we need to be listened to. Okay, so like for example, we use goats. Animals in general, a pack animal or an animal that's in a herd, is that they will actually die of loneliness. That is a true story. You can't just have one goat. You can't just have one horse, hence why I've got so many. But like they will literally die of loneliness. It's inbuilt in us, we need it.
I always wanted to get married. I always saw myself getting married with children. Like that was my big plan. And then, after a few years, I was kind of like, well, I just dated a lot of shit people. I didn't want to get married to them. And as I've gotten older now, I'm kind of like, well, I'm getting too old to have kids. So yeah, I love love. I hope I fall in love again one day.
Who doesn't love love? Ari clarified saying, I'm referring to hustle culture and hypergamy. All the working class people I know prioritize attributes like ambition and work ethic above compatibility. That makes sense. If you're in the hustle culture bubble, yeah, I agree with you then. I agree with you.
Like, I think the last time I was in love was, I don't even know how long now. It's been a while. I'm not against it, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens in the future. We'll see what happens. But look, I'm very honest about who I am, and anyone that's going to, date me or want to be with me, then they'll have to know my whole past. And a lot of people aren't comfortable with that, but I've been really lucky that the people I've had in my life all know about it and they're fine with it. And I guess it doesn't define me as a person, even though I always will in my heart be a whore. Like I'll always identify as a whore. But yeah, I'd love one day. Look, I'm not opposed. Yes.
What?
I think it's interesting. Some sex workers really identify with that word. I've never identified with that word. I see myself more as a naked pixie fairy. I think I see myself more as like a sex positive nudist than a whore. So I don't really identify with that word. I don't mind being called a whore, but I just don't think it's the right categorization for me. But I think it's interesting what words we cling to and what words feel comfortable to us. I'm okay with slut, sort of, but I'm not the fan of whore. but just because it doesn't identify my brain, like it doesn't work for my brain. But it's probably because I don't do in-person sex work. Maybe I wonder if that's a difference there. I'm not sure, but I do like that certain words mean are comfortable to certain people. That stood out to me. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Kind of men hire you?
Really, there is no certain one type. I think that there's a common theme along the situations that they're in when they would want someone like me. 9 times out of 10 is really not someone that's attached, to be honest with you. There might, there's many that they might come from a divorce. Be hard yakka being a farmer's wife, I'm telling you that right now. So especially during drought and all of the variables that we have around here. So it might have come from a divorce. One that gets me in the feels is that, for some of them, their wife might have passed away. So, I'm gonna start crying.
Is that common or?
Can be.
Wait for.
Thank you, babes. Loves you. All right. Oh, man. My mess? Yes, I'm a mess. Oh,
You look
sort
great.
it out. Yeah. All right. Okay. Whew. All right. So, so for example, maybe their life partner might have passed away for whatever reason, and that's a bum deal. That is a really bum deal when you've when you've been committed to someone and you've got that, going somewhere in life and all that sort of thing, and then your partner passes away. Couldn't ever imagine it. Breaks my heart to think about it. I could never imagine that. So what are those people meant to do afterwards? They've raised kids, they've been with their wife for maybe all 30 years or something like that, and then the cancer comes and gets her, and what do you, I don't know.
Yeah, look, it is different types of love, but for a brief moment, I think sometimes when it is a sexual thing, you feel wanted, you feel attractive. It's not love, but it sort of gives you that same temporary feeling of love. It's just not forever. It's just not forever.
Researchers have found loneliness can be just as lethal as smoking 25 cigarettes a day, with lonely people being twice as likely to die prematurely than those who have healthy social.
That's true. I was just reading about that, how the indicator of a long life is the relationships that you have. It doesn't necessarily have to be romantic, though I think that helps for a lot of people, but
social relationships.
Private escort work, it is more companionship. It is, having someone to listen to you. A lot of my bookings when I was working, it would be just us lying naked in a bed, me stroking their body, and them just telling me about their week or what's going on in their brain or what's, the drama. And that is they just want that intimacy, that companionship, that's just to feel important, to be listened to, yeah.
However, there is a far darker side to sex work or prostitution for the vast majority of women who participate in it. Carmen and Holly in the Outback are unfortunately the outliers. In truth,
Shout out to Lauren for highlighting the positives and then moving into the negatives. I think that sets a different tone for sex work that I think is important. And yes, generally speaking, you're going to have a much less good time than a good time in sex work because of the way the industries are made, which is why I like independent things like OnlyFans, where I'm a top creator making $1 million a month. So if you guys want to subscribe, it's 50% off this month in celebration of my birthday. Thank you so much. But yeah, I do think that generally the industry has been unfavorable and unkind to women and people in it, men and women, theys in it.
90% of sex workers would leave the industry if given the opportunity. A cursory viewing of channels like Soft White Underbelly, who regularly interviews prostitutes, will show you an industry where rape, beatings, and murder are seen as part and parcel of that world. There are always exceptions to the rule, but unfortunately, the selling of sex often results in what most traditional narratives tell us is a sacred act being reduced down to nothing more than a commodity.
Sex being sacred is so contextual. I do think it's particular and specific, and I couldn't imagine having sex casually now, right? But that's because I'm married and I'm in love. You know what I mean? So, it being sacred is interesting because in some ways I could see that being true even from an atheist perspective, but in other ways I can't because I think we're animals evolved on a planet.
I think that's, you hit it on the head. It is less sacred, and now because every second person's got OnlyFans and selling their shit online, and I think it's taken away that, like I say, sacred. It's sacredness of it. There's what's left, like if you've done everything, what is there to strive to or to hope for, or I don't know. Do you come up with some good questions here? I'm like, fucking hell.
While prostitution has existed since time immemorial, the mass consumption of pornography is a much more recent phenomenon. The negative effects of pornography are manifold. Just like traditional drugs, pornography creates escalating behaviors through desensitization. Teenagers who watch porn are far more likely to believe that dangerous sex acts are more normal than their peers.
A lot of people have talked about this, that pornography can kind of promote unrealistic standards for bodies and for sexual acts as well. So a lot of women have reported feeling insecure about their body from pornography, men as well.
I think that this is probably true because of the unhealthy relationship we're having with pornography, going back to that sex positive person that was on earlier, talking about the sex therapist, talking about like if former generations were having a problem talking about their sex struggles, then kids are going to learn from sex, and then it's going to be very difficult. So ultimately, we want to have a better relationship with porn and sex, and then we don't want to act as if every relationship prior to internet porn was perfect, right? We've always had problems. The question is, what is the problem now? So again, I do think kids being exposed to porn is a negative. I do think they're going to look for it. I certainly did as a kid. But more or less, the conversations we're having around sex are contributing to the negative relationship we're all having to it. From things as simple as like when I was a professional nanny before I was a full-time YouTuber, and I would have to teach the kids how to clean themselves after going potty because the parents were stressed by it. They're like, oh my gosh, can you help me? I can't get it through to them. They're not getting it. And even parents struggle to teach their kids how to bathe or be hygienic or take care of themselves, let alone sex education, which comes later on. It's very difficult to be a human. And I think sometimes we assume as parents that our kids will just figure it out. They will. They will use the internet to figure it out. And that's probably not the best teacher. But the best teacher is also not a parent who is too ashamed themselves to have the real conversations.
Feeling insecure about their own body, particularly, the size of their member and that sort of a thing. And then people may also feel pressured to engage in sexual acts, learn from pornography that they're not comfortable with. This is another trend that's kind of emerged, is that people are expected perhaps to engage in more aggressive or violent sexual behaviors, things like that, fetishes that may not have been something they were interested in, but perhaps feel pressured by a partner who learned that earlier in life from porn or something like that.
Once again, it can be easy to judge men who consume porn and hire prostitutes, as well as the women who partake in this profession. But the reality is, it's growing across the board for a reason. Desperation for intimacy, or some form of it.
Even future trends, what are we seeing? Kind of this rise in artificial intelligence girlfriends. People are forming parasocial relationships with chatbots online, so not directly pornography, but closely related to that.
While the company of a stranger is only a temporary solution, simply the impact of human touch itself can improve an individual's psychological well-being, reduce feelings of loneliness, and even fight off infections. Given this, instead of judging what people do in their pain and loneliness, perhaps we should find ways to fix that pain and loneliness.
Damn, Lauren being based as fuck, bro. She's doing pretty good with this documentary so far. It's really balanced, it's really open, it's really fair. Okay, Lauren Southern. I love a redemption arc. This is okay.
Yes, definitely. I'm super lonely. It kind of feels comfortable being lonely. So it's a kind of weird feeling. I think it's like people just get used to it.
Who's this guy? Who is this guy? Who is he? I don't know. Who is this guy? His vibes are weird. I don't like it. No offense. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to be better. I said the inside thoughts out loud. I'm sure he's a lovely person, but for some reason, my brain is noticing somewhat of a pattern where I want to categorize him as a person because of the initial introduction to him, wearing the wedding ring, pretending he's married. People seek him more. He's giving me negative feelings. I'm not sure about anything about the real person, but
Well, for me, I don't mind being lonely, but I know a lot of people are lonely.
I don't mind being lonely, bro. That's why I wear a wedding ring to seduce married. Sorry. See, I'm doing it again. Okay, I'm going to be very... I think being lonely sucks. And I don't think anyone's ever comfortable with it. I think it's a cope. But I think being alone is more than great. I love being alone. But nobody really wants to be lonely.
That's why they're on the dating apps these days.
I think it's made dating feel very disposable. People can come and go. You've basically got a catalogue where you can just flick through. Oh, I didn't like her hairstyle. Oh, she said something annoying on that date. Bum, 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 on to the next.
When people get scared about being by themselves, like they tend to run away from that and I guess seek different people and seek validation through interactions with other people. But if you just kind of learn to sit with yourself and kind of confront why you're afraid or why does it make me uncomfortable, like you find, I think, a lot more peace of mind and you feel like you don't have to do it as much. That's what I found for myself, at least. Like, I still get lonely, obviously, I still think about it, but it's not an overwhelming kind of crushing thing where I have to get onto an app and be like, oh, who's liked me, who, it's, no, I do think people are lonely as a whole, yeah. One of the largest ways that...
And that is from culture as well. Loneliness as a whole is a cultural thing. So I'll tell you some positives of growing up in my household. 9 siblings, always had someone to hang out with. 2 parents who are always with us. A mom who homeschooled us for some time in our life and then public school at some time in our life. But she was a stay-at-home mom, went to work after her kids were grown and worked before her kids were, kids, I guess. I don't know. And then my dad was home every night after work. So we spent weekends and dinner with him every night. They were active parents. They talked to us. They spent a lot of time with us. We spent a lot of time outside together. We spend a lot of time in communication. We have a family app now. So even though we're all grown and separate from each other, we're all on a family app. We keep in touch with everybody. We send photos and videos and update each other with things that we think are nice throughout the day or whatever. We hugged a lot as a family. So my dad, my mom, my siblings were all huggers. And even the siblings who aren't, they like being in close proximity to each other. So even if you're neurodivergent or autistic or have some not desire to touch, there's still siblings that are comfortable being close to each other. We say, I love you all of the time. So I love you, bro. I love you. I love you. Like we're always saying, I love you. Every time we get off the phone, I love you. I love you. It's like you're just saying it, not to just say it, but because you want to remind them in case it's the last time you talk to them. I love you, bro. I love you. I love you. So if you die tomorrow, know that I love you. If you die, know that I love you. It's like a very important, I love you. My husband said, when do you think we'll slow down on saying I love you? Never. I love you. I love you. If you die tomorrow, I love you so much. If you see a car coming towards you and you think, holy fuck, know that I love you. If I die slipping in the bathtub because I'm a stupid klutz, I love you. I love you. So some of the positives of growing up in my family that I think really helped to give us all a very secure attachment. Eventually, after therapy, there's a lot of anxiety attachment in the family, but is that idea of we love each other. So hugging, kissing, and it's very Assyrian. It's very Middle Eastern. My uncles, my aunties, the way we greet each other is to kiss, is to hug. When I say my in-laws, we hug, we kiss, we hold each other. My mother-in-law holds me. Croatians are very affectionate, apparently. They hold me. She grabs me and lets me know, I love you. I love you. I know a bunch of people were like, oh, you married your husband so quickly. His mother tells me she loves me. His mother holds me like a mother and tells me, I love you. This is love. This is culture. This is people. This is culture. This is people. The world is lonely because it doesn't have a people. And I'm not saying that it's easy to find, but you will find it. And I'm not saying that it's not without effort, guys. You have to put in the effort. But more than that, you got to find your people. And finding your people takes time. I'm 35. I didn't find my husband until I was 33. I didn't really understand that I had to form my own bubble until I was 30. So know that it's a journey and you will come out the other side. It won't be easy. But of course it's possible. And it starts with you. It really does. You know? And yes, I love it. I love it. I'm seeing the comments. I love it so much. I'm so blessed. I'm so lucky to know love like this. You know, I'm so grateful. But, you know, that makes sense, I think, because I want to carry on that tradition. Like, we have to do Mother's Day. We have to spend time together. We have a monthly dinner because we're making the effort. It does take effort, though. And it has to make sense, right? Anyways.
That the world has changed in the introduction of easy love is online dating and paralysis of choice.
You know, in the past, we used to meet our mate in only one of three ways. Our family and friends made an introduction, we met them at work, or in the normal course of our life, somewhere local, church or at the grocery store. But
I really recommend the third one. I met my husband doing my normal thing, like going to work, doing this. That's how I knew I was going to meet him too, because this is where I spend a lot of my time. I'm telling you right now, I think that's the best way to meet somebody when you're going about your normal life. That's why I say go about your normal life. And you will meet that person who's doing the same thing as you're doing enough that you have something in common. And look, maybe I never would have met him. We talked about this today. I never would have met him if I didn't just keep doing my life. In a lot of ways, I could have made different decisions and we never would have run into each other. And it would have been what it was. Like, there are other people I could have met people. But doing your thing. Now, if your thing is isolation, if your thing is staying at home, that's okay too. Like, it's not the end of the world not to get partnered. But I saw this TikTok that made me laugh where she's like, me expecting to find my partner when I never leave the house. But if you also don't have online communities, if you're also not socializing in that way, sure. It takes down the statistical probability of running into your partner. As long as you know that's okay. Like, as long as that's okay. That's the thing. You got to live your life. And if you meet them, you meet them. And if you don't, you don't.
Technology, we've been introduced to a whole pool of candidates that we never would have met otherwise. It took technology to broaden our circles, for example. But that technology also brought other things. It brought a lot of choices and it brought instant gratification. That's not been good for human relationships because now we've become very picky, maybe unrealistically picky. The same way as having too many choices on a menu, well, you become indecisive. I don't know what to choose. So actually having more choices allows people to be more picky, more selective, and you think that would be a good thing, where people develop standards and preferences. But when taken to the extreme, it actually paralyzes people in making choices. And also they're expecting to find the perfect mate right away. And so let's face it, there is no perfect mate.
You speak for yourself. You speak for yourself, bitch. You speak for yourself, because I found the perfect mate. It's just not the perfect y'all are thinking about. Because I'm not a superficial bitch, okay? I'm about compatibility. There is the perfect partner. And I see all these people with perfect partners. My parents are perfect. They're perfect together. Okay, my brother and his wife, perfect together. They literally, I couldn't have imagined my brother with anybody else. Perfect. And at the same time, there's lots of perfect partners. But see how he's talking about something different? When he says there's no perfect partner, what he means is there's no superficially perfect partner. Because humans age. Oh, I found a girl. She's the hottest girl I've ever seen. She's perfect. Well, that girl's going to age. Oh, I found the perfect man. He's a millionaire. Okay, well, that money's going to run out. Perfect is not the superficial stuff. People who are superficial, like super superficial, like completely superficial, will look for a perfect partner that is superficially perfect, and those things will run out. So of course there's not a perfect partner. But when you're looking for the compatibility perfect partner, the soulmate perfect partner, the person who's going to be so compatible, you guys are going to feel best friends. You come home every day, you love this person. Yes, of course that's possible. I've seen it so many times in my life. I see it right now with my own relationship. Of course that's possible. Right? So if he's talking about superficial perfect, then I agree. No such thing. Because that shit runs out. That shit isn't stable.
That's part of what goes into a healthy, committed, long-term relationship. The ability to adapt, to accommodate, to basically compromise. Well, that's gone away. Now people expect perfection and they expect it immediately. And now with technology, you're not even face-to-face with somebody. you have a natural wall, a barrier, basically a mask. And that's allowed us to
For the neurodivergence in my audience, does this matter to you? Because honestly, like my partner and I were so online that it didn't even matter that there was a computer screen. We knew we were in love and compatible before we met, but of course we went through the proper like courting processing. We made sure, we double checked, we waited, you know, but genuinely like we knew, because I think we're too neurodivergent not to know how to communicate on a computer. If anything, like if it makes sense to us, it makes sense. But yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. That idea of like, there's a screen. I live online. The screen doesn't matter to me. I also live in person though. Here's the problem. I have a very real off-screen life and I have a very real screen life. So for me, both are just as real.
to treat other people in a more cold and callous way. So our social skills have also declined. We're not even diplomatic about how we disconnect from people. Hence the term ghosting. You've heard of ghosting.
Yeah.
Well, that's not polite.
That's
it wouldn't
not
be polite
polite.
in a bar. It's not polite over a phone or a laptop.
It seems our liberation has in some ways made us less free. It may seem easy to blame these apps for our problems finding commitment, but the truth is technology is only an extension of our own human behavior.
True.
It amplifies our good as well as our bad. It amplifies our
True.
good as well as our
True.
bad.
It's kind of sad, actually. Dating apps, I think, as a general rule, are
Sydney Watson is she's a YouTuber.
kind of sad. That sucks to say, doesn't it? It makes me a bit like, oh, rough. There's a saying, right? Being an old school romantic in a hookup culture is a special kind of hell. And I think that that is 1000% the thing. Is I think that a lot of men, at least in my experience, they want to go the extra mile, but they're too scared to. So instead they just cycle through as many women as they can, which is annoying.
Hookup culture is so scary. You guys have got to slow down with...
You know, there's this irony where men are always like, women are the pickers and women never pick me and women decide who gets in the marriage. And the irony, I think, is sort of like the same women that wish these men would pick them, the men don't want them. The men cheat on them. The men cycle through them. And it's like they keep dating each other. And I'm saying stay away from each other. Women who really want marriages cannot be with men who really don't. But men will sit here and pretend like they do want marriages. You don't want marriages, bro. You want convenience. And women, they might not even want a marriage. Maybe they just want to be alone. And it's just kind of gross. But I think this is introspection. I think this is a problem with philosophy. I think this is people not knowing themselves. You don't have a curiosity for the world. You don't have a love for knowledge. You're not interested in wisdom. You're certainly not interested in facing your own demons, right? Like we're watching people who are figuring out in their 35, 40s, 50s, like, oh, maybe I should consider my partner's consent. Maybe I shouldn't cheat on people. Oh, maybe I should spend time with my kids. Oh my God, wait, should I actually like make love to my wife? Oh shit. Should I spend less time with my boys and more times with my family? Oh shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're not acknowledging that we're the problem. We are not acknowledging that we are the problem. So we keep wanting to put it on somebody else. Like we're watching grown people realize like, yeah, maybe you should try being authentic with people. And they're like, whoa, authenticity? Who would have thunk? Stop lying to your partners.
Just mentally beating the heck out of each other, you know, scary. I don't want to be a part of that world. It's people are too nasty to each other. People have no consideration for each other anymore. None.
I mean, it's true. We put so much emphasis on our feelings and on, you know, expressing them and crying and, you know, being aware of our mental health and of being aware of, you know, being mentally healthy and all these sort of things. And yet, by the same token, we encourage this weird hookup culture where we basically discredit and throw away how other people feel, and we call them babies, or we call them, you know, we attack people personally when they want more or when they don't behave in a certain way or whatever the case may be. And I think that honestly, just watching it like begrudgingly, wishing that, you know, hoping to find the right person, but, you know, watching it from the outside, I think, oh my God, we're doing this to ourselves.
We celebrate in this culture this idea of casual sex, this idea of the hookup culture. It is no longer even questions. It's just accepted. That's just what it is. So women are engaging in this with no understanding of the fact that they come away from that experience damaged.
I think the hookup culture has been very destructive for women who've felt that they were under pressure to treat it like a game of squash.
Well, sure, if you don't want to... Look, anything you do without your consent is shitty. Anything you're going to do without your actual desire to do it is shitty. Of course, it's not the hookup culture. It's the fact that you didn't want to do it in the first place. Like, it's not. It's just, I refuse to believe casual sex is the problem so much as people engaging in it when they don't even want it. If you don't want it, don't do it. It's going to feel really shitty if you do it when you don't want to do it, guys. Don't do it unless you really want to do it. It's going to feel shitty. Don't do it.
You know, go in there as if it was just about sexual enjoyment.
The fact is that women have oxytocin, high levels of oxytocin that men don't have, and it causes them to attach and to bond to the man with whom they're...
Bro, every boy I've ever hooked up with begged me more to be in a relationship than I ever wanted to be in the relationship with him. Nope. 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 My experience is the literal opposite. That I'd be like, what the fuck? I thought we agreed we're not going to date. And the men were like, what do you mean we're not going to date? And I was like, we agreed we're not going to date. And they were like, but I want to date you now. We have such great sex. Nope. 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 The amount. This is my opposite experience in my bubble. In my bubble, it's always the men who get attached more than the women. In my bubble. I'm not saying this is true for everybody, but it's interesting how we have this different lived experience.
They're having sex. And so the idea of casual sex just doesn't even work from a biological perspective. And that's very surprising for women because they were taught, again, that they're just like men.
I do think the young generation now almost always goes to bed too quickly. And if they go to bed with each other, the women are much more likely to see it as a sign that this is going to lead on to something wonderful. So the women get even more excited. And then as the man realizes, no, this is not the right person for me, and extracts himself. I mean, he knows he's inflicting an enormous amount of hurt on her because her expectations are different. Men and women struggle with this stuff.
The fact that
49 single and addicted to dating apps.
Men are capable of separating, not that we should be arguing that that's a good thing, but just the biological facts is that they're capable of separating is the reason why the film He's Just Not That Into You wasn't
classic
called She's Just Not That Into You, right? Like, people understand that sex is different for men than it is for women. So that is one thing that is just not told to women whatsoever. So they're very surprised at their reactions when they are trying to engage in this.
I just feel like this is such a bubble perspective. I don't think it's always true, but I think it could be true. For some people, they are having this experience.
Crazy idea of hooking up.
The fact is, when people have sexual relationships, it unleashes all sorts of brain chemistry and psychological forms of attachment. And so people are having more than sex. They actually are going through, at least psychologically and biologically, the early stages of forming a relationship. And so if people start now messing with that natural biology and natural psychology, people may not even realize when they have met the right one, when they don't even realize the signs or the feelings, the hints.
I feel like that's a problem with introspection. There's no fucking way, bro. That's a problem with introspection. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, this, if they make the argument that this is introspection, then I agree. But this isn't a matter of hookup sex being the problem, right? Like, it's not about sex. It's about introspection. Why are you even having hookup sex in the first place? Or like, why do you like it? What is it? I don't know. In my lived experience, hookup sex was never the problem in the people in my life, but it is the problem for some people. But what was the problem was introspection, it feels like.
Hints that people have internally of, wow, this is more than just a hookup. I really like this person. This might be the foundation for a long...
And often those men and women who get attached to each other are just attached to the relief of not being alone, which is introspection, or the convenience of being taken care of. Most of the men wanting to be taken care of, which is like fine. But it is, in my opinion, from what I've seen from the people who do hookup culture badly, a problem with why they're even doing it. They don't even know why they're doing it. And a lot of them are lying to accomplish it. I feel like if you're doing anything with anyone, you have to lie to make it a thing, then it's probably bad. And so many people are willing to settle because they think they're experiencing something profound, right? It's like so many people are willing to say, like, I'm special and I want to be shown I'm special. So I'm going to put up with the person who's not treating me with dignity because when they do pick me, it feels so good. That's trauma, introspection problems, right?
Long-term relationship. Again, the outcome has been too much sex can blind a person to the markers and the indicators of love.
A lot of this has led to a fiery debate online called the body count discourse.
If you have a high body count, you're not even an option anymore.
What's a high body count? Nobody ever answers this fucking question. What is a high body count and what counts as a body? Nobody ever answers this question. What is a body and what's a high body count?
So even you know that a woman that has a past is no longer valuable, which is why you're hesitant to answer the question.
What we know from the research is men, when they see another man with, a high body count, they tend to view it very positively as a sort of status signal. In fact, it's a very, very robust status signal. Men see a man who, had many partners or who claims to, and they think, this is a high status man, look at all of the mates he can acquire. Women don't. When women see a man with a high body count, they view him negatively as men view women who have a high body count. So it's pretty same. What does that signal to women, for example? Low trust, low commitment, a high potential for infidelity, and also disgust sensitivity comes into it as well, right? Fear of pathogens, the idea that someone that has had many partners could be a risk because they have a disease, for example. So it's probably the case there, that for a man, they want to be someone that maybe could have sex with a lot of women, have access to a lot of women, but who actually has not.
It's undeniable that hookup culture is viewed with negativity for a reason. But despite much commentary online, those who have been swept up by modern romance trends should not lose hope for their future, so long as they're willing to seek out and heal with partners sharing similar pasts to their own.
So in my own data, I asked how many men and women know the current body count of your partner, basically, right? How many past sexual partners have they had? 30% of men didn't know at all for a committed romantic relationship.
That's crazy. Y'all out here keeping secrets from your partners. That's the problem. Y'all lying to your partners, keeping secrets, too embarrassed to hear the truth. Nah, my partner and I talk about it. We talk about it in detail. They were reviewing my stuff, and I saw a clip of them saying because oh, no way Brittany and her partner do this. No way. Like, at least lie to me a little bit. At least, tell me I'm pretty. Like, you're so insecure. You are so insecure. Like, I'm so sorry that I'm so fucking secure in my relationship and who I am. But this idea that, my partner needs to lie to me or, can't find someone else, attractive, or I can't find someone else attractive, without complimenting my partner is, I'm not this insecure, bro. They literally said, well, if you're going to say someone else is pretty, at least tell me I'm the prettiest woman ever. Bro, no one needs to lie to anybody. But that's the neurodivergency probably as well, where I'm tell me the details because why not? That's my partner's whole story. That's you're marrying somebody with a whole history. Don't you want to know this person in and out? I want to know everything. Not in a bad way or a good way, but in a beautiful way. This is a profound meeting of souls in the universe. I want to know everything about you. We're going to do life together. Tell me your stories. But I think people see it as competition, or there's an insecurity, or it says something about you. The thing is your partner's past doesn't define them unless you think it does. And lots of these people think your past defines you. I don't think your past defines you. I think it contributes to the person you've become. And yes, sometimes your past can be too confusing for people to understand enough to be your partner. But I don't think your past defines you always. It depends on your past, right? So for me, a body count could never matter. I don't care if you've had 100 people or 1% or no people. There are people that, I won't date a virgin. I won't date someone with too many people. I won't date somebody. I'm I don't care about any of this. I don't care if someone's a virgin. I don't care if you've been with 1,000 people. I care about why. Why are you a virgin? Why have you been with 1,000 people? Why? I want to know why. SB says, I do think it's the neurodivergency because in my bubble, you can find other people attractive, but you'd never say she's prettier than you. Yeah, I just couldn't imagine, again, someone saying okay, I could never imagine lying to my partner. And if he was do you think I'm more attractive than Brad Pitt? I'd be okay, no one's attractive. Brad Pitt is a very specific kind of attractive, no offense. Brad Pitt is a very attractive person. Do you think I'm dating somebody as attractive as Brad Pitt? Why are we lying to ourselves? Okay, like same thing. It's just like a lie. It's like a lie. Why are you lying to somebody? Oh yeah, baby, you're hotter than Brad Pitt. And I'm prettier than Angelina Jolie, guys. Do you guys know that I'm hotter than Angelina Jolie? My husband told me that. He didn't tell me that because he would never lie to me. See how crazy doesn't that make you feel crazy? Sit down.
25% of women didn't know. I also asked men and women, do you ask your romantic partner in a relationship? 50% of men, they don't ask. 42% of women, they don't ask. So this could be because they don't want to know or they don't want to care. If they knew, maybe it would bother them, or maybe they really just genuinely don't care. But if you have half of the population saying they don't ask, then it's probably not the case that this is going to come up. And then at the same time, we have assortative mating, right? That individuals who are more promiscuous tend to pair up with others who are more promiscuous as well. Often, those might be the individuals that care less. So it's, they're going to find each other. It's probably not the case that this is going to exclude a lot of people from the mating pool.
In fact, high body count does have correlations with lack of ability to maintain relationship.
Yo, Daisy says, oh my gosh, the tantrums I got from my ex for having had one boyfriend before him, it was crazy. I was made out to be disgusting, dirty, and unforgivable abomination. Trauma. Like, he's traumatized. That's crazy. But then it's about values as well. So I can understand. I don't mind if somebody says, oh, the lifestyle of promiscuity doesn't match with my lifestyle of modesty. And I could see that being a deterrent. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I'm saying, like, you do you. And again, you don't have to do your relationship the way I do mine. You don't have to have radical honesty. You don't have to have this. I just have it. I have it. It weirds me out. I don't like being lied to. Just tell me the truth, bro. I can handle it. Like, the truth will never bother me. The truth sets you free. I deeply believe this, that the truth is better than the non-truth. I deeply believe this. And this is probably just a Britney thing, and a Britney's partner thing, but I deeply believe that the truth is better than a lie. I think it is so much more freeing. Like, you're gonna die. It's not gonna matter. Oh my God. You're literally like a little evolved animal on a planet. You're gonna die in 70 years. Does it really matter if you're not as hot as Angelina Jolie? I mean, Jesus Christ, But I can understand the wanting to have a compatible partnership in terms of promiscuity or modesty. Like, I'm a pretty medium modest promiscuous person in a sense. Like, I have an OnlyFans. Like, I believe in sexual expression. I love my OnlyFans. I love the work that I do there. PS 50% off this month for my birthday. But I love it. And I wouldn't want to date a partner that needed me to be off my OnlyFans. It wouldn't make sense because we're both sex positive. But I can see why you wouldn't want to date somebody who's on OnlyFans if that's not part of your lifestyle. I think that's okay to be consistent. Just make sure it's consistency with your values and not because you're insecure and you want to punish your partner. SB says, because you don't let the truth affect your ego. Like, honestly, how did you get there? It's harder for some people than you think. Well, I think you're right. And I acknowledge that. I know that it's hard. But I do think it's rooted in a biological perspective as well as an introspective perspective. So it's not like I didn't have insecurities growing up. It's not like I didn't hate my face or wish I looked more feminine or, oh my gosh, why can't I shave my legs? And why am I short? And why am I not skinny like these other girls? And why aren't I blonde? And sure, everyone goes through moments. But then you realize okay, you're a biological creature on the planet. We all are going to look different. And more than that, if you really want to, you can change how you look. But more than that, you could also have a relationship with your consciousness and realize you are here. You're on a planet living. And you don't have to change the way you look to find happiness or joy, but you can if you would like. And the question always came down to, I could always do this if I wanted to. But then I realized I never really wanted to. Yeah, I could get a nose job and I could dye my hair and I could starve myself. I don't really want to. Why did I feel like I wanted to do that? Oh, because I'm trying to fit a mold or I'm trying to fit into a bubble or I'm trying to seek out validation. Okay, well, hold on. Why am I doing that? Oh, because it's good for my job or it will make me more money or, oh, I will have more friendships or, oh, I'll have more options for dating. Why do I need that? And then I had to ask myself, why do I even want these things? And why? Why? Now, if you come to the conclusion that actually I think a nose job would really serve my joy, get the nose job, girl. Oh, I really think Botox would help me. Get the Botox. But do it for you. Do it for you. Now, if you're going to play a game with the world, which I think is reasonable, that's okay too. Just make sure you don't do anything that you're going to hate yourself for. Go to bed every night confident that you lived up to your own standard. And that's what I kind of try to go for. I want to make sure that when I go to bed at night, I'm really happy with my choices. I'm really happy with what I did today. And if I'm not, I want to make sure I do it better tomorrow. Right? And so this idea of like, how did I get here? Lots of pain and suffering, but lots of introspective work, lots of facing myself. He said 50% of people don't ask people their body count. That, challenge myself to accept people for who they are, practice radical acceptance to such a degree that I really accept what is true instead of what I want to be true. So I didn't just get here, I had to practice it. I had to practice facing myself. I had to practice hearing people tell me the truth and their relationship with it, and accept that they were on a journey of their own. I'm not saying to accept their truth as the truth. I'm saying accept that that's their perspective. Like, okay, I can't change that about you. I can only have a relationship with that. And I think that that's why it's so hard and uncomfortable. Like, you have to admit things to yourself out loud that are difficult to face. Like, oh, I'm avoiding going to the doctor because I'm afraid I'll be seen as weak. You are afraid of people judging you. That is a weakness to the detriment of your own life. So to be introspective enough to say, okay, I can't believe I was risking my health because I didn't want other people to think I was weak, is a great moment in your life to move forward. It's amazing what we'll do to ourselves for the validation of others, for people who won't even remember us when we die, for people who won't even care about us or love us.
Extreme bitterness towards those who have engaged in hookup culture also has a correlation with inability to even form or partake in sexual relationships in the first place.
Why might people put so much effort into trying to convince the world that people with high body counts are not going to find love? Part of this could be intersexual competition, right? And there's a lot of research that indicates men who are less successful in the mating market develop more negative attitudes toward promiscuity. There's been experiments as well along those lines that manipulating dating apps in an experimental condition to make men get rejected more. You give them a measurement for attitudes toward promiscuity after the fact, and it becomes more negative, even acutely, very, very fast. So people shift their belief on that very, very quickly. We see competition that comes into it as well. When men are in an environment with a male-heavy sex ratio, they also become more negative towards promiscuity. And when men are subjected to photos of men who look more masculine or who have beards, for example, they also become more negative toward promiscuity. So the idea of competition, of low success in the mating market, and all of that. And
we really are just animals, aren't we? We're such animals. Good news is that we're the kind of animal species, much like others, that can ponder and contemplate and change. You are always your biology, no matter what you do, because you're a biological creature. But there's so many avenues to unlock about your nature. Your nature isn't just the basics. This is very basics. This is if you're at the monkey level of your operating system. I like men because they have big penis. I like men because money. I like girls because babies. That's your monkey brain. Good news is we can unlock layers of our relationship with our biology and be greater and different, if you would like to be, in which you will not need to date women just because of babies. But also, if you'd like to be that person, you do you. You know? Again, the world is so diverse and you have so many ways you can live on the planet. You are so amazing as a species. If you would like to be the type of the category of the species that is only thinking with your lowest level of thinking, you do you, baby. You do you. You don't have to. You don't have to. But it's up to you. Because the whole population, the world does keep going because people keep doing that. By the way, the world really does keep populations up because they're using their monkey brains. So if your goal is to keep the population up, do not get educated and just keep fucking.
Yeah, so something that I found in my data as well is men who were young, who were not in school, who were not employed, and who were virgins themselves had the most negative attitudes toward high body counts. They were the ones that wanted a virgin the most. So that's kind of what you see, is it's probably intersexual competition. People are trying to shame others, you know, maybe to make mates more available for themselves in a sense.
This highlights one of the greatest problems with our discourse around the romance crisis. Increasingly, advice is rarely coming from a place of genuine care, whether it be mocking of virgins or shaming of the promiscuous. At the extremes, you see a deep bitterness and desire for others to be in more unfortunate circumstances than our own, a perpetual race to the bottom. One solution to many of these problems would be, rather than shame, to promote healthy relationships like strengthening families. But even something as simple and obviously good as the family unit has found itself a victim of extremist politics.
The family.
It's a very strange paradox that the more sexualized the culture has become, in a way the less vital and vigorous true sexual relations have become. I think the sexual revolution, like all revolutions, may have started off with great ideals, but it's actually consumed its own. If you look at Kate Millett and all her Marxist friends from the 60s who founded the National Organization of Women, this great standard bearer of the sexual revolution, their objective was actually destructive. It was to tear down the patriarchy, and that meant destroying marriage.
Politically, you're just dealing with plain and simple Marxism versus capitalism, right? At the end of the day, you depend on the state. In order to depend on the state, you've got to break down the family. In order to break down the family, you've got to...
Jesus, these bubbles are crazy. Jesus crikey. I feel absolutely fucking brainwashed. I don't know what accent I'm doing now. I hate the bubbles. I love the bubbles. I hate the bubbles. I love the bubbles. Human's gonna human.
Got to break down marriage. In order to break down marriage, you've got to break down the relationship between women and men.
And they said, we will achieve this by, quote, promoting.
How does capitalism even encourage love, bro? Capitalism is literally why love is in the toilet right now. Capitalism is literally not helping love right now. I don't know why you think capitalism is helping love.
Promiscuity, eroticism, prostitution, and homosexuality.
Oh, wait. Hannah says it's the gay agenda. It is the gay agenda. And we want the agenda to happen because we are gay.
And you've got to ask yourself, how has that worked out for women? Because if you promote prostitution and eroticism.
I'm fine. I'm married. I don't know why you bitches are married. I don't know why Lauren Southern isn't married, but I'm married, okay? I met the love of my fucking life. I met the best person on this planet to do life with, bros. I met my best friend as a queer, sex-working YouTuber. I'm living my best life. I'm just saying, the heteros might be suffering, but the queers are thriving, girls. Keep it up. These people are so Debbie Downers, man. They're all Debbie Downers.
Which means pornography. You've really established a new slave trade in vulnerable women to serve a male market. And if you promote promiscuity, which goes with the abortion culture, it's women who bear the price of that, not men. It's women who have a place of death created in their body.
What are we going to do without the women?
There should be a place of life, and that messes with their minds and their hearts.
Don't grab me. We're not together, bro. I want this kid back. I want to get no. I can't. Let's go. You gotta keep that kid. You got you. Let's go.
Okay, this is just toxicity, though. This is unhealthy people. Abortion has nothing to do with abuse. Like, this is just abuse.
I don't want this kid back.
This idea that men and women are equal really means that they're the same, that they're interchangeable, that it does.
Nope. That was never the conversation. I don't know why you think that. Some people think that. Most people don't think that. We just want to be dignified in the same way. Want to be able to, be seen as same, like, valuable. If men and women were interchangeable, there'd be no such thing as heterosexual homosexuality. If women don't actually think they're the same as men, we want to be as valuable in terms of our humanity. How is this hard?
It doesn't mean anything to be man or woman, when of course it means everything.
I mean, it doesn't mean that much. I mean, it only means something if it means something.
So yeah, it's about breaking down the family and making people dependent on the state. And of course, that's a bigger issue that I don't think when you're talking about young people in love that they really care too much about that, or they're not going to associate it really with what's going on.
George Orwell said of the communist revolution, he said, there is something fundamentally wrong with a system that needs to be built on a mountain of corpses, end quote. The thing is that the sexual revolution is built on a much bigger mountain of tiny corpses. The abortion on demand is the essential guarantee of the sexual revolution. It's the essential guarantee of that ancient fantasy of the predatory male, that he can have sex without consequence. And The strange thing is that this is claimed to be a victory for feminism. Once again, the revolution eats itself by liberating the worst impulses of feral men.
I really love the bubbles. Oh, yes. Okay, yeah, so true. Here it is. The ending I assumed would come with Lauren Southern videos. Yep. The video was so good so far, and then all of a sudden I was like, holy fuck. Yo, I love bubbles, bro. Tell me, this is what I'm saying. We are not living in this reality. Like, I'm like, you don't have to live like that, though. And they're like, no, this is the only way to live. I'm like, yeah, but you could do so many other things. Like, you could do so many other things with your life. Ooh, girl, I just thank God every day this is not my life. I thank God every day. This is not my life. I don't even believe in God, but if she exists, she is blessing me right now. Ooh. Miss Fishy says, man, the bubbles have such a bad view of men. Everyone always accuses me of being anti-men. All the Christian men come in here and the conservatives are like, Brittany hates men. Listen to the way you talk about yourselves. You know who taught me to think of men negatively? Men. Men are the ones who tell me about men, girls. I don't know what to tell you. Men are the one who are afraid of men. Men are always the ones who are afraid of gay men. Men are afraid of trans women because they think they're men. Men are so afraid of men. And you all teach me every day that I have the right to feel a way about them. If you keep telling me all of you are horny, horrible people. And I don't believe that, obviously. I have good men in my life. But obviously we have different cultural expectations of why we think things happen. But like, it's not about men. It's about the fact that you guys think so low of yourself. You continue that stereotype to the rest of us. And then when we start to listen to you and we're like, okay, maybe we should be aware of men. You're like, what the fuck? What are you doing? Jordan Peterson literally said, if men do not get laid, they'll probably become school shooters. Paraphrasing here. Then that's the problem with men. There's no statistic about women becoming serial killers or school shooters because they're not getting laid. Why would you think that? And if that's the case, what's wrong with men? If men, their male leaders are telling them, if they are not procreating, if they don't have sex, they turn into horrible people. Like, what is wrong with men? That's not a woman's problem. Do you know what I'm saying? And now they're saying it's women's fault men are becoming this way because women aren't putting out. What is happening? What is this? Ma'am?
I would say that feminism has allowed men to play out their selfish desires in the sense that if guys don't want to commit to you and they don't want to have a relationship with you and they don't want to be serious with you, they can just have sex with you and never talk to you again. If that is something that they are interested in doing, that is completely justified because women and men can have sex in the same frequency now and it's perfectly fine. Which again, if that's how people want to operate, that's completely their prerogative. I'm not gonna say anything mean or nasty to them for doing that. But yeah, no, for sure. It's made it easier for people not to commit, basically, which I think.
Guys, holding out does not make it easier to commit. Like, I'm going to be real with you. Whether or not you have some sex with someone before marriage doesn't matter. It only matters in the cultural bubble you're in. If women think I'm going to put out so he picks me and men are just there for sex, he's going to leave you regardless. You must know this. Please do the fucking math. If the man enters the relationship with just the desire to have sex, you putting out isn't going to change the fact of whether or not he stays or goes. Men will literally marry you just so you put out and they'll divorce you later. Like, men are, not all men, obviously. We're talking about a very specific group. Just same with the women. If you're a group, because like, I'm not like this. Like, I remember when my mom was like, oh, are you not going to have sex with your partner before marriage? And I was like, no, of course we're going to have sex. I'm getting birth control right now. And she goes, oh, I thought you weren't going to have sex before marriage. I was like, why would you think that? Why would you think I would do that? And she goes, I thought you were changing. I was like, how? Why would I change? Why would I not have sex before marriage? And she was like, well, why wouldn't you wait if you tell me this is like the love of your life? And I was like, well, we're not sure yet. We have to have sex. Not because sex is mandatory, but because, first of all, him and I don't care if we have sex before marriage. But also we want to make sure we like the way each other smells, which you can find out without having sex. You don't have to have sex to know if you should marry someone. Listen to what I'm saying. But because we don't think sex before marriage is wrong, Why wouldn't we have sex before marriage? Because if we had sex and we broke up, that also would have been great. You have to understand, I do not hold out sex in hopes to be in a relationship with someone. You do not have to be in a relationship with me to have sex with me. Because that standard isn't one I've ever had for my life. I've never needed someone to date me to have sex with me. Why would I need that? Because I do not fit into that category of woman. Even though I'm a woman, most days, I don't need to be in a relationship with you to have sex with you. But if you're the kind of person who only has sex to get a relationship, don't have sex with people, I guess. But also, like, make sure that person knows that about you. Holding out for sex, like, okay, did Lauren Southern have sex with her husband before they got married? Actually, yeah, I think she was pregnant before they got married, right? Never mind, bad example. I don't mean to attack her, but I mean to say, like, it's not black and white. Lauren is a girl who said she was conservative and still ended up in a divorce because you settled for some guy that wasn't the love of your life. The love of your life doesn't abuse you unless they're having a brain aneurysm. The love of your life isn't going to hit you unless they've got fucking Alzheimer's and they think you're a stranger. You know what I mean? There's something here that's missing from the conversation, and I feel like people aren't talking about it. You're not picking the right partners, and you're not in love, and none of it has to do with whether or not they've put out.
I think is really beneficial to men specifically, because obviously if they can have sex with a bunch of women, I think they'll do it. And if that's on the table and there's no ramifications when they...
Not all men, 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 not all men. Most of the men I know in my life are not having a lot of sex. They don't want to have a lot of sex. They're not interested. They're good. They're living their life. They're having fun. They're watching anime. They're religious or not religious. They're not worried about sex. They never talk about it. They are not concerned. Men who are obsessed with having sex need to get a fucking hobby. They're not obsessed with having sex. That's what I mean. Your obsession with having sex is your bubble. That is your lived experience. It's not a universal lived experience. Your desire, like your obsession with sex, is just you and the people who are like you. It is not all men. A lot of men are perfectly adjusted, functional, reasonable, rational, are having wonderful lives, and are certainly not going crazy over sex. Now, it's not to say that they haven't had a moment of, oh my God, am I not having sex for a reason? To, oh, I just don't like anybody though. Like, you gotta like people to have sex with them, bros. All these men like Myron who has sex with women he doesn't like just to have a check mark, that's so fucked up. Think about what Myron is doing to his own psychology. Myron is having basically sex he doesn't want to have just to what? Brag to other men? He doesn't even like box. He doesn't even like women. Why is he having sex with them? To impress other men. Gross. I mean, that's so sad. But here we are, living our sad, pathetic lives for the validation of other people. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for all of you. Go to therapy. Lazy Girl says Tristan Tate used to court virgins for months to take their virginity and dump them. You know how many people I know? Exactly. Assholes. Assholes. Shuddaby says, would you want to marry someone who's only marries you because they can't have sex otherwise? I mean, but again, values are important. Like my brother and his wife didn't have sex before marriage because it's not a part of their religious practice. And that's great that they didn't have to have sex with each other. And they're like they're made in heaven. They're match made in heaven. They're so great. Right? They're so great. Nibla says, I don't necessarily disagree, but men definitely have a higher sex drive than women. Okay, what does that matter though? And I have an incredibly high sex drive for a woman, but what does that matter? Like, what do you think that means? So you said something that I think I know what you think it means, but what do you think it means? Well, men have a higher sex drive. Okay, what are you insinuating? You're saying it like it means something after. So I'm going to tell you what I think it means. Men have a higher sex drive. Therefore, they must have more sex. The must part is where we're having a disagreement. Must they have more sex? Can they hire a sex worker? Can they masturbate? Do you need it? Are you going to die if you don't get it? You should probably see a doctor or meditate. Do you get what I'm saying? There's an insinuation of, oh, I have a high sex drive, so I have to have sex. And if you do, then we should normalize sex workers and you should go to a sex worker. Or you should be hooking up with people that also mutually just want to hook up. But instead, these alleged men who have these high sex drives end up seducing women they have no intention of being with, using them and then dumping them and lying to them, gaslighting, cheating on them. Oh, because I have a high sex drive. It's not your sex drive that makes you a bad person. It's your morals. It's your values. Your mental illness doesn't make you a bad person. It's your values. Your biology doesn't make you a bad person. It's your values.
I don't really believe in marriage because you don't need a piece of paper to tell you that you are in love and that you're committed. I'm a man of my word. So if I say I'm going to love you forever, I'll probably love you for a few years and then change my mind.
Weirdly enough, I'm more comfortable with the title of mother.
I told you I hated him. I told you I had a reason. I told you I didn't like him. I told you I knew. See how we hadn't talked? All he had said was like 2 or 3 things and I knew it. I knew I hated him. I knew. I was like, nope, I know this type of person, this category of man. Oh, I wear a wedding ring because more women hit on me. I'll probably love you for a little while. That's what I'm saying. See, you know when you look at people, when they tell you their life, you're like, just make sure you categorize them correctly.
Than I am of wife, but that's again a personal thing.
I think long-lasting love and creating a family is one of the most beautiful things that we can experience in our lives. But I can't really imagine that right now because I haven't met the right person. You know, I'm in my 30s now, and what I thought was going to happen in my 20s didn't. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I would much rather meet someone later and it be this amazing connection and be the right person, and ideally we don't divorce.
The biological clock can sound like a nasty word, but that doesn't make it any less real. Peak fertility for women is around their early to mid-20s. By age 30, one's fertility begins to rapidly decline. By age 45, your chances of getting pregnant are less than 4% per cycle. Just 30 years ago, the vast majority of women were giving birth in their early to mid-20s. The number of women now giving birth to their first child after 30 has risen by nearly 50%. And with it, infertility and challenges, with record numbers of women having to use the expensive and strenuous process of IVF to get pregnant when their bodies will no longer do so naturally.
And it doesn't always take.
Calling with your results, and unfortunately the test is negative. Very sorry. I wish I could give you different information.
And I feel like I should have started sooner. I should have done this. I should have done that. I shouldn't have blah, blah, blah. Like, right? You just go through all the scenarios. I feel like I've wasted my time and I've wasted my money.
Until you're married and you have friends that are married trying to have kids, you do not realize how challenging of a process IVF is, how expensive it is. And I feel like so many women have been given the short end of the stick by being lied to by these magazines and media that just, you know, put your career first. And that's fine if a woman wants a career, but you put it first and then you really wanted kids.
But we didn't know. We didn't know.
No, I just don't think people know themselves.
All the mothers who said to their daughters, you know, it's fine, you have your career. I mean, that came from a lot of mums too, who felt they missed. I mean, my mother is classic, who never achieved what she wanted to because she was a mum, and because she followed my father out they came from Germany, and you know, he ended up he was a famous economist and he had a illustrious career, and my mother. His career was really compromised as a result of that. I mean, there was a whole generation of women like that who said to their daughters, you know, get educated, they didn't know that the fertility problem was going to be as bad as it turned out to be. But we know now. So why aren't we talking more about that?
I do think in a way we have been lied to. But I mean, I think that women want to have the best of both worlds, and I don't see anything wrong with that. What I think is problematic is that we're just not told that, yeah, sometimes you do get to a point where you have sort of run out of time.
Sadly, difficulties with natural conception is not the only downside of giving birth later. The chances of life-threatening ectopic pregnancies can be up to 8 times higher in women over 35.
Yeah, but still you run into the same problem. You guys aren't fucking listening. Nobody's listening. You cannot force when you meet your partner. You cannot force when you meet your partner. So, okay, so what? Having babies later in life sucks. Okay, so what am I supposed to do? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm 25. I'm ready. Send me my partner. See how they're just talking about settling? All of these people who are divorced or unmarried or married to different people and got lucky, none of them are talking about the high compatibility partners. What am I supposed to do? I'm 25. I'm at the height of my pregnancy era. Send me my partner. Are you going to go to the partner stork? What are these people talking about? Why do they keep doing this? Their math isn't mathing. Okay, so having kids later sucks. Okay. What do you want these people to do? Why is this like, why are people single? Why isn't Lauren Southern, why didn't she pick a good husband? What do you mean? What are we talking about here? No one is teaching anybody how to find a compatible partner. You're all so fucking worried about housing and babies and jobs, and none of you thought maybe I should become a person that knows how to be compatible with somebody. What are we talking about? Why are you worried about late-term pregnancies? This video should have been about, okay, finding yourself to find a good compatible partner with values. None of this is about values. I haven't heard one person talk about what is good for you as the person. And they're so fucked, their priorities, and yet they're screaming family values and like, I give a fuck about people. You don't give a fuck about anybody. You give a fuck about what things look good. None of these people give a fuck because none of the things in this documentary have solved any of the fucking problems. It's the same complaining talking points. Women are the problem. Abortion's the problem. Birth control is the problem. Jesus fucking Christ. Just go back to arranged marriages if you guys are going to be this fucking bitchy about it.
It's the women who have babies. It's the women who get pregnant, not the men. So they have a certain amount of time in which to get their life in order that men don't, you know, and that's just the way it is. We're never going to be able to change that. So the smart idea is to work within what you've got. And nobody wants to say that to women because the idea is that they're supposed to be living parallel lives throughout their life as similar to men's. And that's why they end up in a pickle when they hit about the age of 30 and realize, wait, this isn't working so well.
A perception, particularly in the manosphere, that men can just go ahead and date much younger women, and that's kind of going to solve the problem. You know, what I would say to that, to those individuals is good luck.
And despite popular belief, men also experience reduced fertility with age, with sperm quality drastically decreasing after 40. Children with fathers aged 40 or over are 5 times more likely to develop autism spectrum disorder than children to fathers under 30. The myth of eternal male fertility is just that, a myth. Some men believe they can escape the consequences of the passage of time by easily and simply finding women much younger than them to bear their children. Most of them are sorely mistaken.
We see that women express very strong preferences for men who are close to their own age, within a window of 2 to 4 years. That's kind of the ideal. So it's not the case, particularly very young women, you know, that are going to be wanting to date men in their mid to late 30s in that sense. There's some of that discourse that, you know, that's when male value is at its peak. It's really not, you know, and particularly people show a strong, or I should say women especially, show a very strong preference for men kind of close to their own age.
The idea that any of us, male or female, can just wait forever to have children is only a recent and extremely flawed notion, and not just in its blindness to biology. Age is a factor if you want to be a parent that can run around with your child kicking a soccer ball when they reach their teens. Age matters if we consider the burden we may be to our children during their prime years as we begin to hit our last. Age matters when we consider whether we want to meet and care for our grandchildren one day. This path of frivolous pleasure seeking has resulted in deep pain for many. So where do we go next? Well, some have suggested we go back to a time before the revolution. Tradition is often portrayed as old, dated practices, a certain shirt you have to wear on Sunday, or the reciting of a sacred text. But this is simply a superficial side to it. In reality, tradition is built up of knowledge from our ancestors through the ages. What they did wrong, what they did right. All of them have passed down little bits of advice after their long and complicated lives. We only have so much time to make mistakes, just one life. And so we compile a guidebook for those who come next.
I think the old rules made it easier for men and women to be kind to each other. I mean, because when I was a teenager, there were still very strict rules about how far you let the boy go, you know, and most women complied with that. That was just before everything started to totally disintegrate, I suppose. And men knew how nice girls behaved. I mean, there were very strict ideas about appropriate behaviour. Now no one knows, and I think it's because
the misogyny, the absolute fucking misogyny. Why are you putting all the responsibility on women? Jesus fucking Christ. Well, men knew what a good girl was because she wouldn't go that far. Men shouldn't be engaging with any women. It's like Andrew Tate and his brother and all these men taking women's virginities and fucking all these good girls into being like body count whores that nobody wants to date now in their bubbles. Like, stop. Like, stop. You're exhausting me. Jesus fuck. Just relax, bro. Okay? Just fucking relax. Okay? I wouldn't date a man who goes around using women. I wouldn't date a man like that. I mean, I have dated a man like that. I won't do it anymore. But like, I won't date men anymore who have a high body count unless those body counts are with consensual, wonderful partners they have good memories with, right? Because you see the difference? The difference is I could talk to those past partners and they're like, oh yeah, I had a great time. Versus somebody who uses and uses and uses and uses and throws them away like used napkins. Like, that is not good behavior from a person. Promiscuity is fine as long as it's consensual and within reason, and people aren't sitting here feeling like, oh yeah, he gaslit, he lied, he spread STIs, she got pregnant without my consent, she told me she was on birth control, she wasn't. Like, you don't want to date shitty people. And shitty people can be people who have never had sex or who have had sex. Not having sex does not tell me if you're a shitty person or not. Period. It just feels so exhausting. You know? Nibla says she's not. Wait, it's not that she's putting the responsibility on women. It's that we're entering into unfamiliar, uncertain world. Not everyone is adapted to that world. It's going to take time. Well, you're like 20 years behind. 30. If the revolution happened in the 60s, why are you so behind? The revolution happened. Why are you behind? Why are you blaming? Like, you guys are the ones not reading the books. Not you, Nibla, but like, they're not reading the books. They're not going to the festivals. They're not talking to the people. They're not going on the slut walks. They're not getting educated. And even these girls who are super promiscuous, they're also not reading the books. If the average American is reading 5 books a year, you're not reading the books. You know what I mean? But lots of us and lots of bubbles have been doing the work, have been reading the books, have been going to the classes, and we're doing fine. It's not perfect, but God, it's better than whatever this is. You know? So again, like, you don't need to like freak out that the world is changing. You just got to read the fucking books. And also, you got to decide if you want to be authentic or good or what is love. You know how many fucked up people I know with traumatic pasts that glorify the most abusive relationships because they just feel like it's destiny, it's life, it's beautiful, it's profound. Get your shit together, bros. You're traumatized and you're exhibiting that in your behavior by dating women half your age, by cheating, by lying, by accepting women who will lie to you, or you lying to other women about being in relationships, and you're settling for these relationships because genuinely you're too goddamn afraid to be alone. And I'm just saying, you could listen to us and you could take the advice from somebody who's actually doing it, or you can keep doing you and, you know, you do you. But like, some of us are fine.
Become enormously much more difficult to protect ourselves and to protect each other and behave kindly towards each other.
Well, tradition is something that's been proven over time. It matches our human nature. And I love thinking of the really old word for marriage, which was matrimony. So matrimony was a word that comes from 2 Latin words, mater meaning mother, and monium meaning state or condition. So the word tells us that this institution of matrimony or marriage is built around the condition or possibility of motherhood. It's all about the mother and child phenomenon in nature and reinforcing that in a family. And against that tradition, I'd say that people who seek cheap imitations, well, no wonder it leaves them empty.
Because I'm now, of course, not only a mother but a grandmother, I now put more emphasis on the children, and bound up with the sexual revolution was an idea about, you know, if you're not happy in a marriage, you move on. You know, that was part of this whole argument about looking after yourself in the me generation was, if you're not sexually and emotionally content.
Also, isn't sex down? Isn't Gen Z literally having less sex? So which one is it? Are they having too much sex or less sex? Isn't Gen Z literally having less sex? Isn't that the problem? Like, people aren't matching up with people? Literally, the problem is none of you were raised with values and half of you come from divorced homes. Let's be real. This is your parents' fault. Okay? Let's be fucking real. These are value problems, okay? This is a value problem. Sex should be down if it's there for a good reason. Sex should be up if it's for a good reason. It's like, don't you understand? You're all fucking up because you're all focusing on the wrong fucking things. You're all so entitled and everyone is so sad and, oh, I'm suffering the most. I'm so over it. The complaining, I'm so over the complaining. This feels like complaining. Feels like the same people are complaining about the same shit and nobody wants to actually face themselves and be like, hey, bro, maybe it's you, bro. Maybe it's literally you, bro. Have you ever thought that maybe it's you, bro?
Tend in your relationships, you're better off with a good divorce than a bad marriage. And that's where I've revised my opinion, that I think I knew nothing about children and it wasn't part of the equation when I was discussing encouraging people to get out there and enjoy their sexuality. I now feel we were too casual about relationships and the impact of particularly the breakup of relationships on children. That's where my biggest reservations have come from, because we then saw a huge shift in attitudes towards stability of marriage, and that's been very destructive for our society.
In the post-sexual revolution world, where a lot of people have experienced some degree of casual sex, right? It's not the case that most people are virgins when they get married. Most people have had multiple relationships, at least multiple sexual partners. Are we going to be able to have
Andrew Huberman was leading like 6+ women on about being their sole sexual partner while doing IVF with his live-in girlfriend, only to be sleeping with other women at the same time. I don't want to hear anyone talk about, oh, it's the women. Oh, it's the men. It's you. I don't care what your gender is. It's you. You're the problem. Whoever the lying, deceiving, motherfucking stabbing bitch is the problem. Okay? And you're the problem if you stay in those relationships until you don't stay in those relationships. You're the problem. Okay? You're the problem. The lying, deceiving, fucking double two-faced bitches be the problem. I don't want to fucking hear it anymore. Okay? Don't be lying. Don't be spreading. Don't be miscommunicating with people, bitch. You know how many fucking bitches I know, men, women, who will get with a person and that person will be like, oh, FYI, I'm in a relationship and I'm cheating with you. And they're like, okay, but like you chose me, right? Stop wanting to be picked by people in relationships. You're pathetic. Go to therapy. I've lost it. I tried to be patient. I can't. God damn. You are so self-destructive. Stop lying to people. Stop faking your fucking friendships. Stop fucking lying to yourselves. Jesus fucking Christ. Jesus Christ. If you're going to lie this much, might as well be a politician. Fuck.
Have kind of this return to tradition where everyone's going to go back to this extreme chastity and lifelong monogamy?
No, Cognitive, wrong. Cognitive says because the women would rather share Andrew Huberman than have their own. They all dumped him. The women all dumped him. None of them wanted him once they found out he was cheating on them. No, women don't want Andrew Huberman. Andrew Huberman got dumped. The only women that would choose Andrew Huberman now, knowing what he did, are losers. Because he's a loser, bro. The women who found out Andrew Huberman was using them all dumped him. That's why the article came out. And if you want to share a loser man, you're a loser. Polyamory is valid. Open relationships are valid. Okay? Polyamory is valid, but that's not false sharing. Do not lie.
It doesn't seem to be the case. And as far as people living out their, lives, which are relatively short, we have, a pretty short window to find a mate, to fall in love, kind of live a life with someone else. Spending a lot of time trying to change the whole society and culture, it seems relatively fruitless, especially if it's really an expressed mating strategy, I think people do kind of need to give a little grace in that sense, a little bit of compromise for the opposite sex and for whatever, their past sexual behavior may be, not even just in an idealistic or moral sense, but in a very, very pragmatic sense. Because if you're a man and you make it to age 28, and you're still hung up over wanting a virgin or something, you're not going to find a virgin at that age. It's going to be extremely, extremely difficult. So there has to be some realism there, some kind of compromise that this is the world we live in, and you can encourage values.
I don't like this either. I don't like this idea. It's not about finding a virgin. It's about finding a person with your values. There are plenty of virgins walking around. They're not going to end up with Fresh and Fit. They're going to end up with religious men. Do you know what I'm saying? There are plenty of religious homeschool girls that are living on their parents' farm that want a good man. who are also virgins. See, the women in my bubbles also date virgin men. That's why half my brothers are virgins, because they're religious. Because that's the point. Now, if you've had sex before marriage, that's okay. You can always like repent and like blah, blah, blah. But you can't just be out here like smashing box and then be like, but like a virgin. Like why would a woman be virgin unless she's specifically religious or specifically of a tradition? And then if she's of a tradition, you would then have to be a part of the tradition to attract that mate. It's about tradition and values. Do you not understand this is cultural? Like, how is nobody in this documentary mentioning cultural differences? We are not living in the same cultures. If you want a person because they're a virgin and you want to take their virginity, you're a fucking freak, bro. Join a BDSM club and pretend you're all virgins. You're a freak. But if you want a person who's a virgin because you're a virgin and you both believe in a god, that's culture. Wanting a virgin because they're a virgin is fucking sick, bro. You're sick in the head, bro. Go to fucking therapy. Go to fucking therapy. You're sick in the fucking head. Okay? If you want a virgin because it's a part of modesty culture or a religious culture, that's different. That's totally different. But wanting pussy just because it's never been touched before is fucking sick in the head. You're gross. You're disgusting. Ugh, gross. Disgusting. Ingrid says, I don't tell people that I'm a virgin because I don't want to be picked just because I'm a virgin. Literally sick in the head. You're all sick and you leave Ingrid alone. Sick in the head. Ingrid, I'll protect you from all these fucking hoes. These people are sick. They fucking need to be institutionalized, bro. Picking people just because they're virgins is sick, bro. Gross.
More, chastity in a sense, but as far as your actual mating behavior and selecting a mate and finding a partner, yeah, you're going to have to compromise with the fact that, they've had past partners before in most cases.
While some traditions have been destructive and oppressive and demanded to be challenged, it's undeniable there's an inherent human desire for structure and order, lest we be enslaved by our own confusion in a shallow liberation. But recreating that structure has proven more difficult than some may think, especially in an age where many young people didn't grow up with it modeled for them. As a result, you've seen a cartoonish version of this structure reappear in what is called the modern trad movement.
Oh, Lauren about to talk some shit, bro.
In one part, it's kind of a reaction to feminism, modernity as well. So people see something in the past that's often kind of an idealized past. Often disconnected perhaps from many of the realities of the way that it was, but very driven by aesthetics and images. So very idealized, simple, traditional life in many cases. So there is that where they view it positively, but then for some individuals, it's also essentially a cope, right? And related kind of to relationships and mating frustrations. They think that perhaps a more traditional environment, perhaps something where relationships were almost mandatory in a sense, or as they perceive it, given to them, even arranged marriages, for example.
All these people want their life to be easier. What a cope. I'm strong. I'm tough. You want it to be easy. Look at, I can handle anything. I can take a war, a zombie apocalypse. Women and feminists and soy boys. Oh, they're such cucks, bro. They're such beta males. Why doesn't a woman want me? I just want to be married. And why does no virgin who can marry me? Like, literally, you're all are fucking pussies, bro. You can't even handle being single. You're so fucking weak. You can't even handle being single. You're so fucking weak. I can handle a zombie apocalypse. There's no pussy in the zombie apocalypse. Oh, but then, men be fucking animals, so you probably be fucking zombies. I'm so fucking bored. I'm bored. I'm gonna throw shit at you. I'm so bored. Oh my God. I'm in my zen, guys. Level 5 right here.
Make it essentially easier for them to mate. And that can be kind of related to a perceived loss of power in individual men, maybe also kind of a loss of traditional roles that they think that they would like. It could also be, that there does seem to be some dissatisfaction within interpersonal relationships as far as egalitarianism. People do seem to kind of like these roles to some extent. I guess one thing to remember on that is that it wasn't always easy, to get a wife. We think of, the trads, often the imagery comes from the 1950s when there was a very high marital rate, but that wasn't always the case for the past 300 or 400 years. You see, 30% of men being unmarried, for example, through 1700, 1900, and this depends on the area because Victorian era it had more, but it wasn't always easy to get a mate. There were high rates of premarital pregnancy, perhaps And earlier
To hear the rest of my response, join YouTube memberships. This will give you access to special emojis, behind-the-scenes videos, and full unedited live streams. Thank you so much for supporting the content. Ingrid, stop.
period was not always quite as trad or as easy, you know, as people seem to think that it might have been.
In reality, relationships have been hard work throughout the ages. Rarely are there simple solutions to societal crises, especially when too often said solutions are not coming from real human advice from older generations, but rather snapshots of the past missing all necessary context.
I think that this perception that relationships in previous times may have been less degenerate or easier or something, I think a lot of it comes from advertisements, actually, kind of idealized pictures. If you see kind of the aesthetic.
Okay, based. Okay, this documentary for the most part is pretty fucking balanced. Okay, I'll give Lauren her props. It's pretty balanced, as much as like I went off for a moment. Okay, it's good job, Lauren. Good job.
That come up in this trad movement, very often it will be taken from photographs from advertisements, and it kind of depicts that lifestyle. It's kind of like
that's why people don't like Nara Smith, because I mean I like Nara as a businesswoman, but you never see her kids. She's never cleaning the mess. You never see her struggle. And I think people forget, like, there is a struggle. Though I have a very cool video to show you after this about a traditional disabled mother who, regardless of disability, raised 7 kids successfully and did amazing things. And I'll show you that video after this. It's amazing to watch. Like, so all things are possible with all people, but not all people are capable of all things. So you got to play to your strengths as an individual. You got to play to your strengths as a person, and you got to do what you can do. And it's not about meeting other people's standards. It's about meeting your own. And make sure you have high standards for yourself, but not unrealistic ones. Lots of these people have unrealistic standards, which is why they're single, alone, or in marriages that end up in divorce. You have unrealistic standards, and it shows. Your life is a mess, and it shows.
If you go to someone's social media today and they put all of their best pictures and they kind of create a fanciful image of themselves, I think a lot of people don't look into how things may have been for the average individual. And I think also certain virtues of
the fact that women worked primarily and a lot of working families growing up, the fact that like there was no fantasy, there was only the fantasy of the very, very privileged, and most of us are not going to fit into that category.
Different time periods kind of bleed together. So people might look at the 1950s and say high rate of marriage. You know, they might not look at.
Sorry, Fishy says, what's an unrealistic standard? When it's unrealistic, be reasonable. And that means you have to test your own knowledge of what is reasonable. Am I cursing myself with an unrealistic standard? Probably. You have to know. It comes from you. You test it. You do trial and errors. I do it all the time with my own work. Is it unrealistic for me to think I'm going to post a video a day? Yeah, a bit. That's why I don't do it. I want to. I want to reach this standard. Everyone else is doing it, but I can't. I burn out. I get tired. My fibro acts up. I can't sleep. Be realistic. So I know it's not realistic for me to post a video every day. It used to frustrate me. I used to be like so annoyed. And then I'm like, girl, accept the fact that you can't. Still hustle all the best. Guys, like the stream, it really does help. It's from you. You know, because your life is a reflection of it. When I was trying to post a video every day, I wasn't sleeping as much. My fibro would act up and then I'd be in pain all day. Now I'm not posting a video every day, but I'm sleeping better. I've gotten so much sleep over the last few week and a half, and I'm back on track. I feel so much better. My skin is doing better. My life is better. And it's just because I'm not setting unrealistic standards for myself. You have to see if it brings you towards your joy or closer to your evil. Bryson said, my least favorite is when people hold others to standards they don't even hold themselves to. It's gross. It's so unattractive. It's my biggest ick, Bryson. It's my biggest ick. Fishy says, what if your standards for what you want in a healthy partner, but you understand you also aren't healthy enough to have the relationship with the type of person yet? Is that unrealistic? It's unrealistic if you want it now, but it's not unrealistic to want to have it later. It's great to have something to work towards. It's only unrealistic if you want it now. Like, unrealistic is like, I'm going to be an Olympian, but I've never finished a marathon. Oh, I'm going to be an Olympian, but I can't walk. Or disabled Olympians exist, but you know what I mean. It's about looking at the data. Be very scientific about it. Look at the data. I really want a partner. I know I'm working on myself. I'm dating. I'm figuring it out. I know I'm not quite there yet, but I'm gathering tools. It's not unrealistic to work towards goals. It's unrealistic to think you've achieved what was necessary to attain the goals when you haven't. I'm gonna buy a house next year with no money in my bank account. Unrealistic. I'm gonna buy a house next year. I currently have $500,000 in my bank account. Okay, that's pretty realistic. Data is your best friend. It's your best information. Knowing is your best. Philosophy, the love of knowing, the love of wisdom, the love of seeking to know is your greatest tool. Ignorance is bliss, but it's hell on earth if you're just in the cusp of not knowing enough and knowing too much. Once you hit that cusp of no longer being bliss and your ignorance is no longer serving you, now you gotta know. Okay, so ignorance is bliss if you stay ignorant. But the moment you're out of your ignorance, ooh, girl, you better start knowing.
It's 1700 and see, very high premarital pregnancy, for example, and kind of just combine like the past was better when it was very varied in the past.
Our memoricide around the history of relationships and sex, how difficult they have always been, and also the discarding of some necessary guardrails of tradition from older generations has caused great confusion and consequence in the real world. The easy dehumanization of other genders, feeling like sex is the only thing that matters, the disregarding of people's emotions and humanity, and
when she says that, like acting like sex is the only thing that matters, this whole documentary made it sound like sex is the only thing that matters. That's what was bothering me. The whole documentary sounds like you're saying the only thing that matters is sex. And I'm saying that's not the only thing that matters. And they're like, oh. That's the confusion I'm having. Are they saying sex isn't the only thing matters or it does? Because you being anti-sex culture, like hookup culture, is kind of saying all that matters is sex because you're saying sex is your bargaining tool. And then on the other side, if you think having hookups is all that matters, you're saying sex is all that matters because that's your bargaining tool for status. And I'm saying, I feel like you're making sex into a bigger deal than it is, but also you're not like understanding that it could be something great, but also something neutral. It feels like no matter what, you're saying sex is the only thing that matters. That's why you're judging people with high body counts.
having no standards whatsoever. All of this is leading to the indication that we as a culture are not taking relationships and
that's the problem. We as a culture. Whose? You're Canadian, bitch. You're a fucking Canadian. What culture? We do not come from the same culture. You're a Canadian. That's what I'm saying. We as a culture. Who's the we? Who are they talking to right now? She's in Australia. She primarily talked to Australians today. Who's the we? You think Australian culture is Canadian culture is like we who? Daisy says we are the world. Mm-hmm. Like who? Who's the we? You know culture changes city to city, bitch. Why don't people accept this? Why are people so fucking brain dead when it comes to this? You think the South is New York? You think New York is California? Your culture changes. It's not the same. You fucking losers. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just fucking losers. All these people. I can't figure it out. They're fucking losers.
and not considering the impacts it has on us. Well, perhaps we
It just feels like complaining. You want to really figure out your life? You got to first get out of your butt that you think you live in a universal culture. Jesus, how narcissistic are these people? We live in a universal culture. Okay.
needed a sexual revolution. All of the societal data is telling us our current approaches are not working. But is there anything that can realistically be done about
Yes. Get your shit together.
this all? Perhaps not on a societal level, but we always have dominion over our own personal approach.
True.
To date, far too many important conversations regarding fertility and sex are all coming out of malice, telling women they no longer have value due to their age, men that they are too short, too poor, or worthless incels who will never find love, telling those who have engaged in hookup culture that there is no forgiveness or healing, that they'll never find love. Eternal finger pointing.
KO says she's talking about so-called Western culture. Western culture is incredibly diverse. Western culture is incredibly diverse. It is so diverse. It is so diverse.
And hoping the other is more miserable. Anyone doing that is digging not only their own grave, but a civilizational grave. Everyone knows the problems that exist with the world today. And yet the vast majority still partake in it to various extents, including a significant portion of those who rail against its impacts online. So to simply write off the entire world right now as broken, unfixable, and unredeemable is no solution at all. Too many people who say that we should hate the sin and love the sinner are inside still hating on the person doing what they perceive as a negative action. The path forward, no matter what form that takes, must primarily be rooted in deep compassion for our fellow human beings. Any solution not based on love is truly empty.
Love means willing the good of the other. It is a cool, calm, dry act of the will. Now, if it has a whole lot of emotional colouring and passion coming in on top of that, that's really good.
What does love mean to me? Are you really asking me this question, Laura? No. Are you being serious? Do I really?
People need to know that they are going to be with somebody that takes their needs into account, not just looking for someone to provide them what they want.
People kind of need to look inward instead of pointing fingers, I think.
I suppose love from my perspective would be ending up with someone that I want to spend the rest of my life with, or I guess in Sydney Watson terminology, annoy for the rest of my life.
I will say I do feel sorry for women.
You see that how it doesn't answer the question? What does love mean to you? Ending up with someone for the rest of my life? That's love, bro? That's what love means to you?
In a way as well too, because all of us have been thrown in the spanner with what do we do with our lives.
Yeah.
Some women that may have wanted to be housewives and just have kids or whatever we want to do,
That's frowned upon now.
It's frowned upon.
That's like, you're not using your potential. I would love to be married and have kids and be a stay-at-home mum. I would love that. If my husband worked for me, I would have, when he came home from work, there'd be a beer on the table, his meal would be cooked, I'd be wearing lingerie if he wanted, you know what I mean? Like if someone was going to go out there and work so I didn't have to, fuck yeah, I would do whatever for them. Yes, I would treat them like a king.
I don't think women need to be scared about their biological clock. I think they need to be aware of it and just work with it. Just work with it. Work with what you got. It's not difficult, but it is difficult if you were kept in the dark about it.
Reject modern feminism would be where I start. I mean, I think feminism is doing nothing for relations between men and women.
Can you tell me about your last Tinder date?
My last Tinder date was a very long time ago. She was a soft-spoken woman, Armenian. It was the late 2010s. Me and her shared a bath together. It was a glorious time. We made love for hours. She left in a rush in the morning, went back to her country of Armenia. I never saw her again.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. It was my first love and my only love, and I'll never love again. Thank you for asking me that. It brought back good memories. Thank you.
Phil,
Yes.
what does love mean to you?
Love means sharing a bubble bath with a stranger for one magical evening and never to be seen again. Love is the feeling you share for all these people around you, regardless of clothing, regardless of whether or not you can see or feel, you just love deeply.
All right, well, I hope you all enjoy your orgy tonight.
No. What does love mean to you, Lauren?
What does love mean to me?
Yes.
Commitment.
Ah, that's something we don't have.
These people are so shallow. Love means commitment? That's what love is? Girl, go into business with somebody. Girl, what are you talking about? That's what I mean. These people don't know what love is. These people have never experienced love. This love means to me, ending up with someone for the rest of my life. Love means commitment. That's what love is? One of the most powerful experiences ever experienced by a human being can be summed up with the word commitment. That's what love is to you, bro. Get a dog, bro. Get an AI girlfriend. A good documentary overall. I'll give it a like. That's what I mean. These people are like, why am I single? Why don't I have love? Because you think love is commitment. You think love is just superficial and love is just, you know what I mean? These people are so superficial. Even toxicity, love is this thing that makes you coming back. Even if he's hit me 12 times, love keeps me coming back. That's not love, dude. And if it is love, it's not the type of love that keeps society together. It's the type of love that makes people stay in bad relationships. Like, I don't know if I would count that as love, but I'm open to the variations of love, of course. Shay says, happy birthday, Brittany. Today is also my birthday, turning 25. Can't stay up as early. I've got an early start, but sending good vibes. Thank you so much from Ireland. Let's go. My birthday is officially here because it is 12:30 a.m. So I'm officially 35 years old. Thank you for being here. Technically, you guys celebrate it. You're going to celebrate my birthday now and then tomorrow. And that's what I'm doing for my birthday. I mean, technically, I went out and had a family dinner to celebrate my birthday and Mother's Day with my husband and his parents. But yeah, it is technically my birthday right now. Happy birthday, May 14th. What is love? Love is seeing and being seen in symbiosis. Love is looking at a person and feeling like you understand them the way you understand yourself. And how are you going to understand them if you don't understand yourself? Love is seeing somebody and mutually at the same time and in the same way feeling a connection of symbiosis, which leads to an intimacy unlike any other intimacy in the whole world. The same intimacy you should be having with yourself. That intimacy you have with yourself, knowing yourself, tearing down your walls. When you stop lying to yourself, you have a connection with somebody else who will not lie to you and you will not lie to them. Giving yourself an opportunity for intimacy so profound. They say heaven rejoices when a true couple makes love. That's what my mom used to tell me. She'd be like, the heavens rejoice. And I'd like to think that. I'd like to think the heavens rejoice when a pairing is made that is a real pairing. It's a little woo-woo because I'm not religious, but you know. When the right pairing is made, when you're actually having I see you and you see me in a way that is so fulfilling, it feels magical. Now, whether or not it is, it just feels that way, bro. And it's not off lust, it's not off limerence, and it's not off casual, it's not off superficial. It's deeply profound and lasts a lifetime. Now, not everybody is destined for this kind of connection, and not everybody needs to have it in a lifetime to be happy or joyful or loving or any of that. But if you're the category of person that is seeking this out, then you better not settle.
In my head, in real life I'm in bed, my belly's being fed and I'm okay. I'm just fine, yet all I do is whine. Not to you in my mind, cause I know I don't make sense. I've been nothing but blessed, so why's my life a mess? Please tell me, cause I'm sick of thinking. Yeah, I'm sick of reaching out for the truth and living life as a fool.